Good morning and welcome to our 138th weekly webcast. Now, I'm going to give you all a course that's helped many of my students take their careers to the next level in a minute. And the way that this call works is I first discuss the most important and interesting business news topics live from the past week and how we can all use the news to enhance our careers or invest. Then what I'll do is I'll spend the rest of the 3-hour call taking your questions, and I'll give away my $999 MBA degree product to one person on this call. And I'll explain how you can win this very, very soon. Now, over the past 138 weekly YouTube webcasts, and during the many MBA office hours and MBA Q&A sessions I've had over YouTube Live here, I've answered more than 10,000 questions live on YouTube. It's been fun. It's never felt like a job. And I thought, wouldn't it be cool if you could type your question and I could immediately answer it based on my 10,000 questions answered? And so I want to introduce to you a new product of mine that's called Power Search. All right, here it is. So all you have to do is you go to my website. Make sure it's refreshing. Good, okay. Go to my website, harounventures.com. And at my website, what you do is up here, you ask me anything, and then you hit enter. It works. Try it out. Ask me anything. Business question-wise, you'll see it works. I even set it up so that if you type the ticker incorrectly or any company or any word incorrectly, as I make a lot of spelling mistakes, it still works. It's pretty cool. It's a lot of fun. So my video answers are here, and then the content where I discuss that topic is here in my courses as well. Okay, cool. Fun. All right, let's now move on to the news. Let's talk about NFTs and Gamestop and Topps selling NFTs. And I'm also going to talk about how to know legally ahead of time the future corporate strategy of publicly traded companies. Now, the best way to understand NFTs is to look at collectibles. And every kid or man-child should at least at one point in their lives collect these things. Cards, comics, whatever it is, because you realize the value of money and the value of scarcity as well from a supply and demand perspective. I'll get back to this one here in a second and why it's so big. I almost got in trouble for it, and I'll tell you why. You guys have a good laugh at my expense as always. All right, and many top investors actually started out collecting these things. And collecting actually teaches you about supply and demand and business in general. And it also teaches you why cash is trash. This bill was made in 1935, and this piece of cardboard was made in 1986. This piece of cardboard is worth a lot more than this because there's a limit on supply of these things. And so it was actually a better investment for kids to take their allowance and put it into cards, and it could be Pokemon cards too, like my kids collect, than cash. Now, I'll get to NFTs in a second. And what will happen is you're going to have this unbelievable aha moment as it will all make sense. Now, my grandfather, God bless him, he used to tell me, Chrissy, buy land. They're not making it anymore. And the sports card market was doing very, very well back in the 1970s, speaking of a limit of supply, as were comic books and cards. Now, when I was a kid, I'll tell you right now, when I was a kid, what I used to do, one of my first businesses, is I would take cards and I'd enlarge them and I'd sell them at school. And I didn't know that was wrong. The copyright police didn't get me then, thank goodness. That was illegal, I know. Then after the 80s, like with all bull markets, too many people entered the industry and many sports cards made in the 1990s were actually worthless. And so the best NFTs are the ones where supply is limited, like this one here. Now, this is just an example of a print. So this is a print. Try to get my face in here. and only 20 of these were made. It's not the real one, but 1 out of 20. And that's how we got to think about NFTs as well. You know, a limited print. Now, NFTs are like digital art or digital cards with limited edition prints. Now, of course, the lower the supply, the higher the price. And the Topps Corporation, which makes all kinds of cards, started selling digital versions of cards called non-fungible tokens, or NFTs. And they're virtual and not physical. And the younger generation of kids own fewer toys than we did, but they own much more digital content or rights to music, virtual gems, and a lot more online in the cloud. Now, I participated in Topps' first sale of baseball cards that are NFTs, and it was impossible to buy those NFT cards as demand was red hot. Now, the way it works is if you can't buy the NFT cards from Topps.com when they issue them, then what you can do is you can buy them on the open market on a website similar to eBay, except it's for NFTs, called waxstash.com, wax as an homage to wax packs. So let's go there together and check out Mike Trout's NFT card. So I'm going to go over to my browser, and then I'm going to go to Wax Stash, and I'm going to show you how this works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to search for a card here, and this works for all kinds of cards, not just baseball. But Mike Trout's one of the best players now. Mike Trout. So I'll search for Mike Trout. He plays for the Los Angeles Angels. And you can see right here that you can buy this for 165 of the Wax cryptos. And so what you do is you get a wallet and you use the Wax crypto to buy these cards. And you can see here there's tons for sale. Now, what does NFT have to do with cryptocurrencies anywhere? Well, there's a cryptocurrency called Ether that runs on the Ethereum platform. And Ethereum is unlike many other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin. As Bitcoin, you can buy and sell Bitcoin on its digital ledger, so to speak. But Ethereum has its own platform where you can use secure contracts. And this is a big deal. So think of Ethereum's platform like it's DocuSign for cryptocurrencies, where you can exchange secure contracts. And many crypto IPOs, or ICOs as they call them, are done on the Ethereum platform. And most of these digital cards or digital art are called NFTs, or non-fungible tokens, which are also sold on the Ethereum platform. So this Waxstash platform is actually based on the Ethereum platform. And in order to buy these cards, you have to convert your Bitcoin or Ether or any other crypto into a currency you can use to buy these NFTs. Now, it's hard for us to know if what's being sold on Waxstash is the right price to pay because the list items for sale are there, but it's hard to find out what past sales prices have been. Just like the stock market, we know the value of a stock or an NFT or anything is based on the last sales price. So let's go together quickly to eBay to see what the last prices were on NFTs we might want to buy. So we'll go to eBay now. And I'll do a search for NFT. NFT. All right. And then what you do when you search for an NFT, and of course you'd enter the name of the NFT. This is Garbage Pail Kids, which is owned by Topps now too. Then you scroll down. You have to scroll down and select sold items. Right here. Then you can find out how much these NFTs are actually sold for. So if you want, you could search for NFT LeBron James. And the NBA is light years ahead of every other sports industry when it comes to NFTs. And so you could see what the last price was for NFTs sold here. Okay, the green means it's already sold. Now, with all collectibles and used stuff, you always want to check the last prices sold. And one data point doesn't make a trend, so you've got to look for multiple items that have sold. Now, should you buy NFTs? Yes, if you see it, there's a supply limit on the NFT, like that print I showed you, which was 1 out of 20. And also, if you think that investors are going to like this NFT in the future. Now, Wayne Gretzky, who's my hero, right? And this is a Gretzky Rookie card. It was smaller a lot back then, obviously. And if you get this in mint condition, it's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. I was an idiot as a kid because I put this in the wheel of my bicycle so it sounded like a motorbike. But Gretzky was my hero growing up. And he once said the reason he was humbly so successful was not because he skated to where the puck is, but rather because he skated to where the puck was going to be. Now, by the same token, we need to buy stocks or NFTs or cryptos that investors are going to like. And we need to back up the truck and buy stocks and cryptos only when the ticker VIX, VIX, spikes to near an all-time high, as that is when people think there's blood in the streets and everyone sells all crypto stocks, NFTs, etc. You got to buy when nobody else is. Because as Warren Buffett said, you want to be greedy when others are fearful, and fearful when others are greedy. Now, for more information on the VIX, VIX ticker, please go to my website, Haroun Ventures, and at the top you can search for VIX for one of my mini business explanations. And VIX, the VIX, is a derivative contract, which I'll explain in a lot more detail in my complete derivative options and futures course coming out soon to Udemy. So when the VIX spikes a lot, and when Tops is finally a publicly traded company, it's coming soon, then you can back up the truck and buy top stock whenever they go public, that is. So what about GameStop, ticker GME? Well, GameStop is also issuing NFTs on the Ethereum platform. And the news of this led to a massive short squeeze again, as negative hedge fund investors were betting against the stock, and they freaked out and closed their short positions. Now, a short position is the opposite of buying a stock. Poor hedge funds. You know what that is? That's the world's smallest violin. So imagine GameStop partnering with Nintendo to make Pokemon NFTs. Demand would be insanely high if they do that. So how do we know that GameStop is going to make NFTs? And how can we legally find out the future corporate strategy of companies? Well, there's two different ways. The first way is you can go to uspto.gov, which is the United States Patent and Trademark Office, to search for patents or copyrights recently created by GameStop. Or what you can do here is you can go to copyright.gov to see if there are any GameStop NFT copyright documents. Or the second thing you can do when it comes to checking on GameStop's future strategy, what you can do is you can go to their website. This is powerful. You can go to their website to see who they're trying to hire people that might know about NFTs. If there's a listing there, we'll find it. I'll show you in a second. So let's go there together. What we're going to do is we're going to enter at the top gamestop.com. Okay, and this will search within Google. Space jobs space NFT, a plus because we want that to be included, the word NFT. And if we click here on GameStop's website and scroll down, you can find what they're hiring for. Okay, so right here's NFTs. So if you scroll down here, pretty cool, huh? If you scroll down here, it says, we welcome exceptional engineers, yada, yada, yada. If you want to join our team to talk about NFTs or to help sell these products, email NFT, EAM, NFTeam, at gamestop.com. It's pretty powerful. So the bottom line is three things when it comes to NFTs, which run mostly on the Ethereum platform. Number one, understand that what the supply is of that NFT. Number two, buy when everyone else is freaking out when the VIX spikes to an all-time high or to a high way above 50 or so. Currently, it's around 20 or 30-ish. And then number three, only buy NFTs that, as Wayne Gretzky says, people are going to like in the future, meaning skate to where the puck is going to be. Now, give me 1 second, get a little bit of water here. And I try to finish this every single day. It's 2 liters, I think. Yeah. All right. So let's talk about how M&A or mergers and acquisitions works using Amazon's announced $8.5 billion offer for MGM, which is a studio that owns 50% of the James Bond franchise and many other movies and television shows. So when one company wants to buy another company, they usually need advice and help doing it. So they hire an investment bank to structure the deal. Now, in the case of Amazon, they did not hire an investment bank to make the deal happen, as they've got a very sophisticated corporate finance department at Amazon. Now, the company getting acquired often finds out about the deal from a phone call from the company, meaning Amazon, or from the investment banking advising firm that's advising Amazon. Again, Amazon did not use an investment banker. And so MGM also hires their own investment banker from a different bank, of course, than Amazon. Now, in this case, MGM's investment banker is Morgan Stanley. And M&A is kind of like a legal trial where you want the investment bankers, like the lawyers, representing you, as this is all they do and they're very, very good at it. And I'm sure that if Amazon hired investment bankers, those bankers might advise against doing the deal to buy MGM for antitrust reasons, which I'll talk about in a second. Now, what usually happens with deals in M&A is the going rate for one company buying another company is usually at a 30% premium to the stock price. And in this case, Amazon is paying a 40% premium. Now, the investment banking firm representing MGM, Morgan Stanley in this case, they have a fiduciary duty or a fiscal responsibility to get the highest price possible for MGM investors. As such, Morgan Stanley called Comcast and Apple and asked them, hey, do you want to buy MGM for more than 40%? Now, we'll never know for sure what happened behind the scenes, but given the 40% and not 30% typical premium paid, perhaps Apple and Comcast expressed some interest around the 30% premium for MGM, and then Amazon upped the deal to bid to 40%. There's a bidding war that usually goes on behind the scenes. And according to people familiar with the matter, and that's journalists talk for, they know something, but they're not going to reveal their sources. But according to people familiar with the matter, MGM's investment bankers spent a couple of months trying to get a deal done. And MGM might also be having a lot of financial issues, given the fact that many movie theaters have been closed given COVID, which may mean they could have financial issues and have to sell right away. Kind of like what Google did when they bought YouTube in 2006. You see, YouTube had to sell to a company with deep pockets back then, as there was a lot of copyright legal issues then, according to people familiar with the matter. Now, when it comes to online streaming companies like Disney, HBO, Netflix, and others, of course, content is king. And Disney bought LucasArts years ago for just over $4 billion, which was a steal. So what these bankers might do is they might look at the valuation of that deal and the valuation of other more recent media deals to figure out what the best price is to pay for MGM. And Amazon's media M&A team, they're brilliant and they're so long-term focused, as they bought Twitch for next to nothing. So let's look together at some numbers on this deal. So Amazon has a market cap of well over $1 trillion. And they have more than $70 billion on their balance sheet. So this $8.5 billion acquisition for MGM is certainly not a financial stretch for Amazon by any means. Plus, Amazon has more than 200 million Amazon Prime members. And these 200 million Amazon Prime members spend $600 billion every single year on Amazon, which includes Prime Video, of course. Now, the way that Amazon runs their business is they think of the lifetime value of each customer, or LTVC, lifetime value of each customer. Very important. And the average Prime customer spends $3,000 per year on Amazon. So if you look at the amount that they spend over 30 years, each customer, that's close to $100,000, not including the growth of the $3,000 spent per year. So let's assume that of those $100,000 spent, the profit on that $100,000 is only 5%, or $5,000 over 30 years. So 200 million Prime subscribers times $5,000 in profit means profit of $1 trillion. Okay, and I know this is not a perfect calculation because we didn't discount future profits and we assume the number spent annually and the number of members yearly doesn't really change. But $1 trillion in profits over 30 years from just the Prime members makes that $8.5 billion MGM deal pretty small for them. So if you take $1 trillion divided by 8.5 billion, that's much less than 1%. It also makes their $13.7 billion acquisition of Whole Paycheck, Whole Foods, in 2017 seem pretty small. And what they did actually was in 2017, when they bought Whole Foods, they paid a 27% premium, which is closer to the usual 30% premium for M&A deals. Now, M&A deals never close until the government has blessed it by approving the deal. And what happens is governments don't approve deals if the buyer has too much market power. And I humbly believe that Amazon, Apple, and Google will be broken up soon as they're just too powerful, especially Google. I mean, they own the two biggest search engines in the world, Google and YouTube, of course. So perhaps this is why Apple didn't want to bid for MGM and why Google didn't want to bid for them either. And Disney, who owns Marvel and Lucas, likely didn't bid for MGM as they're worried about the government Heismaning or blocking the deal. And some government officials have already said publicly that they're very worried about this Amazon MGM deal, and perhaps the deal won't be approved. So why now? Why did Amazon not try to buy MGM back in 2020? Well, I think the reason is because the Trump administration would likely never have approved of the deal. And a quick side note here, MGM owns the Apprentice television show and all the outtakes of behind-the-scenes footage. So the bottom line is, one, when it comes to M&A, companies usually pay a 30% premium. Two, the deal has to be approved by the government. And three, smart companies like Amazon look at the lifetime value of their customers and long-time financial implications when creating their financial models and seeing how it impacts the deal, which is just a rounding error for Amazon. Inflation is a very big concern right now. In fact, in the past month, we saw an increase in the price of used cars by 10% month over month, which is the highest in history. Also, lumber prices are at an all-time high, as are the prices of many items that are really, really hard to find. So how can we profit from inflation aside from selling our cars? Well, the easiest way to quickly make thousands or hundreds of dollars in just 1 to 2 weeks is as follows. And what I'm about to show you is going to blow your mind. So the easiest way to do it is you go to eBay, and then what you do is you search for old stuff you might have in your attic or your closet. So for fun, let's search for iPod, if you have an old iPod sitting around. And whenever we look at these things, we want to look at what's sold already. Not what people are trying to sell them for, because the last price of an item is the going rate. So let's look here at iPods. So let's do a search just for fun by highest price, a filter. So if you have this iPod sitting around, people will pay $5,000 for it. If you have this version here, I had one years ago, $1,300. If you have the U2 one, remember that one? It's about $500. And it gets crazy. Even this version here is selling for over $330. It's unbelievable. But wait, there's more. So let's say you have an old Game Boy sitting around. Do a search on this and search for ones that have already sold. Of course, if you have these games in packs unopened, they're worth a fortune. But if you scroll down, you'll see that these things sell for a fortune. $5,000. It's crazy. It's unbelievable. Let's do a couple more really quickly. Let's search for, I don't know, computer. And it's sorted by price. So let me actually sort it by recently ended here in this case. So if you have an old computer sitting around, or even parts of computers, broken stuff, they're worth a fortune. Like, people will buy anything. It's amazing. Even this, check this out. If you have an old Rolex box for some reason sitting around your closet, these things sell for a lot. Just the boxes. It's unbelievable. People will pay for anything used. It's amazing. And even when it comes to props, like, I buy a lot of props for my courses in my MBA degree program from Amazon, and there's a market for everything. And so I'm making my complete options course and futures course, and I'm teaching how futures works. Right? I'm teaching you that there's a market to sell wheat in the future and buy wheat in the future. I even got this this Wheaties box. Yes, if you have old stuff like this sitting around, people will buy it. I got this because I'm trying to show in my complete options derivatives course that General Mills, which ticker is GIS, buys wheat as well. And this is from back in 2012 when Michael Phelps was on the cover of Wheaties. But he got caught doing drugs. And so I think they're going to change the box cover to "Winners don't do drugs, champions do." Sorry. I went a couple minutes without dad humor. My bad. Whoops. So what you can do is, the bottom line is, you or your family or friends might have thousands of dollars of broken stuff in your attic. And so why not start a side hustle of selling your friend's stuff on eBay or your stuff? And if you sell the stuff for other people, like my son Matthew and I did years ago, you can keep a 30% profit. And the buyer of the products on eBay pays for shipping too if you want. You know, heck, what you can do if you want is just take a couple pictures of stuff and list it for free on eBay. And if it sells, great. If not, try to sell other stuff on eBay, especially stuff where there's a shortage in the marketplace today. This costs you nothing, and you can profit handsomely from this. Now, there are thousands or maybe hundreds of dollars of stuff sitting around your house. I humbly recommend profiting from this immediately by selling this stuff. Last thing I'll say about it is, when you buy a video game, you know, what I do is, if I buy the physical version, after I finish it or get bored of it, I sell it as fast as I can over eBay because I see it as a depreciating asset. So try it out. I promise you it works. Let's talk about how to get that job or customer by discussing how to bond with customers or with anyone or interviewers. Now, a rookie mistake in business is to start a one-on-one meeting immediately talking about business. You know, business is about relationships first and product knowledge second. So how do you know what to chit-chat about before the meeting starts? It's pretty easy. You can go to the Twitter profile of the person that you're going to meet with, and you look to see who or what they follow. And, you know, for example, if they follow, I've got my prop here somewhere. Here it is. If they follow the Chicago Cubs, then you can talk about the Chicago Cubs baseball team. And I love baseball. And if I see that someone is from Baltimore, for example, I talk about my admiration for the Baltimore Orioles icon, Cal Ripken. Sports is amazing boardroom talk. It works for all sports, obviously, globally. Now, if you don't like sports and you see that the person you're going to meet with follows comedians, then you can probably joke around a bit in the interview if it feels right to do so. And if they follow actors or movies, you can chat about movie topics as well. And if they're passionate about the environment based on the organizations they follow in Twitter, and if you're also passionate about the environment, for example, then find a way to talk about that. Now, of course, make it subtle. You don't want to say something like, I was stalking you on Twitter in preparation for this meeting, and the way that you manicure the trees in your backyard is pleasant. Now, if they don't have a Twitter profile, then what you can do is you can look at their LinkedIn profile to see who and which companies they follow or what groups they're in. Or you might see their political affiliation on LinkedIn, which you should never put on a LinkedIn profile, but this can help you avoid certain topics. Now, what if they don't have a LinkedIn profile or a Twitter account? Then just search the news that day on relevant topics, or heck, just talk about the weather. And a quick side note here. Check out your competitors and who they follow on Twitter, as they likely follow their largest customers. Okay, back to bonding. The bottom line is, we need to bond before business, as relationships are always more important than product knowledge. And you know this is true, because that one interview you had that day years ago, when you didn't oversell yourself and you just talked about something you and the interviewer have in common, was a big reason why you got that job. Now, for more details on how to network, please go to my website and download my networking book for free. So just go to harounventures.com, and then what you can do is just scroll down and you'll find my book here somewhere, and you can download it for free. Let's talk about the world's new number one richest person. It's a guy that works at LVMH. He's the CEO, and his name is Bernard Arnault. He's the wealthiest person on earth. And what can we learn from him? Well, LVMH is the maker of the Louis Vuitton bags, like this one here, for example, that I bought my wife for Mother's Day. And, whoops, wrong slide, sorry. And by the way, you can tell which Louis Vuitton bags are fake, as the real ones never have the L or the V on the seams, like this one, where the zipper is. So, yeah, I guess I'm a bit of a fraud as your teacher. And all these designer clothes I wear, by the way, they're fake too, like this jacket. This is beautiful. What is that, velvet? What movie is that from? All right, let's get back to Bernard Arnault, who's worth over $185 billion. So what are three qualities that Bernard has that makes him successful? Well, number one, he is unemotional about business. And he's actually been nicknamed the Terminator, as he quickly lays off thousands of people if needed. He's also called the wolf in the cashmere coat. Not velvet, though, unlike me. He's the real deal, not me. Now, unfortunately, the best business people can be highly unemotional, especially many billionaire hedge fund managers who never get too happy when things go well, and conversely, they never freak out when things don't go well. And unemotional business people don't sell stocks at the worst time, because Warren Buffett once said, the New York Stock Exchange is the only store in the world where consumers sell stuff when it goes on sale. Think about that. Now, it is hard being unemotional about business, and there's a fine line. But when I used to work on Wall Street and in the hedge fund industry, it was very stressful. And I conditioned myself that the second I touched my front doorknob when I got home, I conditioned myself the second I touched it to leave all my business stress outside so I can focus on what's most important, meaning my wife, Christine, and my kids. And by the time your kids are 12 years old, you've already spent 90% of the time you'll ever spend with them. And one of the positives, unfortunately, but one of the positives of COVID is that I got to spend a lot more time with my kids. They're a bit older now. I have two that are teenagers right now. My wife jokes she has 4 sons. Now, the second quality that Bernard has is he understands the importance of distribution channels, like Coca-Cola does. Now, Coca-Cola bought Dasani water years ago, and they profited immensely as they sell Dasani water through their massive distribution channels of stores, restaurants, Walmart, etc. In fact, sometimes American companies, what they'll do is big American companies with a global footprint, they'll pay a massive premium to buy a company that seems expensive, but the deal is immediately accretive, meaning it makes the valuation of the company buying often go down as it's a profitable deal. And I'll explain why with an example. Hewlett-Packard used to do this a lot, as HP had at one point 60% of their revenue overseas. And they often bought American software companies that seemed expensive that had 100% of their revenues in the United States. And so HP made the deal very profitable as they could sell their software products globally through their own distribution channels. And at one point, actually, it's interesting, HP was the 5th largest software company in the world. And we used to joke on Wall Street that HP is where software companies go to die. Now, unlike LVMH, unlike HP, LVMH has made their deals work incredibly well, especially back in the 1990s when LVMH's stock increased 15 times. Now, the companies that they bought include their global, that they bought to sell in their global distribution channels include Celine, Christian Lacroix, Marc Jacobs, and even Sephora. And later on, Bernard bought a massive stake in Gucci, and he purchased Christian Dior as well. Now, the third quality that makes Bernard successful is that he understands the importance of branding and high profit margins, just like Apple does. Yes, they sell expensive products, but they have a superb brand and high quality products. And Sony does the same thing too. You always pay the Sony premium whenever you want to buy Sony music equipment or Sony televisions or better yet, awesome high-end Sony cameras. They're great. And Bernard understands this concept thoroughly. You know, if you build and maintain premium brands, then you can charge a premium price. And his profit margins are insanely high, unlike me with my cheap courses and my fake clothes. So the bottom line is, Bernard Arnault is very successful in part due to, number one, he is unemotional about business. Number two, he understands distribution channels. And number three, he thoroughly understands the importance of brands and high profit margins. Is the United States government going to make a cryptocurrency? And how would this work? So right here, this is a $1 bill, okay? It looks like today's $1 bill. It's not. It's from the 1930s. And there's been no need to change this as it's the only dominant currency used in the United States. And it has had a monopoly for decades. Now, when people look, or when people want to use cryptocurrencies as well as transactions, and as well as the US dollar, then finally there will be competition when people start using cryptos for transactions in America here. And in the long run, if people don't buy US government bonds, then what happens is the government cannot change interest rates or fund big projects, because what happens is taxes are never enough to sustain most economies. And the US government is thinking about issuing a cryptocurrency now. And we know this because a United States Federal Reserve governor signaled this to the marketplace the other day by saying a cryptocurrency backed by the central bank could provide a variety of international payment benefits. And also, by this summer, the Fed chairman, Jerome Powell, said that the government is going to release a working document that explains how a US-backed crypto will work. And MIT in Boston, they're also helping the Federal Reserve with this working paper. And according to people familiar with the matter, we might get a US government-backed digital currency in about 2 years. Now, I think what's going to happen is the United States government is going to watch closely how China does this. So many of you know the Chinese government is issuing their own crypto, which is terrifying. as this new crypto will let the Chinese government monitor who buys what and where and from whom, which is just terrible from a privacy perspective. And the Chinese government also has many cameras that use facial detection and can identify hundreds of millions of its citizens, which is wrong and Orwellian, in my humble opinion. Now, there are enough checks and balances in place in the United States that if the government were to issue a cryptocurrency that tracks all of our transactions, then privacy advocates would not let this happen. And my favorite license plate on earth is this one right here from the great state of New Hampshire, which says, "Live free or die." And I don't think privacy advocates would allow a cryptocurrency to be released in the United States that would violate our fundamental freedoms. Now, the US dollar is regulated by the United States government, but cryptocurrencies are actually regulated by mathematics. And since there is hardly any crypto government regulation, the number of scams in cryptocurrencies is just out of control. And I do believe in anonymity and privacy, I do, but not at the expense of criminal activity. As such, I think the way the United States government is going to monitor the industry is through audits of wallet and exchange companies like Coinbase. And currently, United States Treasury mandates that cryptocurrency investors that transfer over $10,000 to report these transactions to the IRS, the Internal Revenue Service, as governments need tax revenue to function. And this isn't a big surprise, though, because all transactions of at least $10,000 have been reported to the government for many, many years due to anti-money laundering legislation and other laws as well. And the Biden administration is spending a fortune on economic stimulus initiatives, and tax evasion is too much of a financial strain on the United States. And so I think that more crypto regulation is coming in order to protect investors. Now, in terms of the US dollar, I think it's going to morph into a cryptocurrency over time, and it will be accepted on many crypto exchanges and using the top crypto wallets. And this new United States-based crypto dollar will be more secure than the current dollar, obviously, just like lots of cryptos are secure. And it will be more secure because we'll get a private key for our US dollar crypto accounts. So there's that extra level of security for the United States dollar. However, many great cryptocurrencies have a limit on supply, which of course will not apply to the US crypto dollar. So the bottom line is yes, I think that a US-backed crypto dollar is coming, but there will be no cap on supply. And yes, it will be more secure, and it will run on some sort of government-backed blockchain where there's checks and balances in the United States to ensure minimal privacy laws are breached. Now, the skeptics won't trust the new US dollar-based cryptocurrency. But at the end of the day, the secure protocol that Bitcoin is based on, meaning SHA-256, was created by the United States government. Now, since the US dollar is not at risk in the near term of losing material market share to cryptocurrencies, I think the US government will closely monitor other countries' efforts to make their own cryptos first. And too many people are getting scammed with cryptos for governments not to consider some sort of regulation over the next few years. How can we find out what the next killer investment is? It's actually right in front of us, and it's used in our houses daily by our kids. The best way to find out what the next killer investment is to observe what our kids or the younger generation is using from a consumer behavior perspective. Now, my kids, their jobs have not been invented yet. And the way that they communicate with their coworkers in the future has not been invented yet either. And investment trends tend to last much longer than we think. Now, at home, many of us have decent-sized televisions that our kids don't use at all. And if they're sitting beside us on the couch as we watch TV, they're looking at these things. And that's actually a good thing. It's a good thing because they're not listening to the negative news on 60 Minutes or CNN or whatever negativity the media is discussing, as media outlets are actually trying to compete with shock value stories to get eyeballs away from YouTube. They're terrified of YouTube. And our kids are all actually getting MBAs in digital marketing by watching their favorite happy-go-lucky YouTubers on Twitch or on YouTube or TikTok, whatever. And our kids are building their empires using Minecraft or Roblox or other platforms. So ask them what apps or platforms they're using. And I promise you, eventually, you will find the next killer investment, as this is Generation Next. Yes, it's great to go outdoors and play when you're younger. But given COVID, this has been tough for them. So ask your kids, what are the apps or platforms that they're using and why? And if you do this enough times, I promise you, you will find the next killer investment. What can we do to massively increase our productivity while we work and also get in the best shape of our lives while working? I'll explain how in a second. But first, let's talk quickly about Sir Richard Branson. He's 70 years old, and he is as fit as he was in his 20s, which helps him be incredibly productive. And it also helps him think more clearly in business, and it helps him stay positive. And the way that Branson stays in shape is he plays tennis in the morning for 1 hour and tennis in the evening for another hour. And I did a little bit of research on this, and playing tennis is about 10,000 steps per hour if it's singles. So Branson gets 20,000 steps a day playing tennis. Now, I get at least 20,000 steps in a day while working in this room. How? Well, under my desk, I have a treadmill. And what I do is I walk for most of the day while working. And I get over 20,000 steps per day in without even noticing it. And I'll show you the treadmill brand in a minute. And by the way, I'll never be sponsored by anybody for anything, as I always put my students first. But if you study for the first hour of each day, you know that you're retaining a ton of information. Then at night, if you study for 8 hours at night, for example, you won't retain as much as you did in the first hour of being awake. Now, what if there was a way where your mind was fresh all day and you felt like you just woke up in terms of your memory retention? And what if I told you that you could accomplish 10 times more every single day while getting in the best shape of your life? You can. You can by getting a treadmill or a cheap, quiet exercise bike under your desk. In fact, what I did was I got rid of my chair in my office a couple months ago because my YouTube viewers were complaining that I sounded tired. And this walking thing works, man. It works. As you're taking in more oxygen and treating your heart well, which makes sure that your mind works gooder too. Now, let me show you the product that I use, the treadmill. So let's go to Amazon. Let's go to my orders. And let's do a search on treadmill. So here's the one I use right here. Okay. So it's tough to see. Here's the price right here. It's cheaper than other ones that have bars around it. It is pricey though. And yeah, here it is here. And you can even slide it under your couch if you want to as well. Now, if you don't have a treadmill, but you go to the gym and use elliptical trainers, etc., you can buy this product here that I bought. It's called Surf Shelf Treadmill Desk. And you can put it on any device while you exercise. And here's the price, and here's the name of the product right here. So I highly recommend getting a desk that moves up and down. Or what you can do is just, put a desk or a box on your desk and put a computer on top of the box. And invest in a walker under your desk at home, if you work at home, that is. And it's an investment that will pay off way, way more than buying any stocks, as you'll be 10 times more productive every single day. Try it. I promise you it works, and it's a great investment in you. How can you improve your public speaking by listening to this relatively new autobiography? Now, I'll tell you what this book is in a second, But when we listen to autobiographies, if we can, we have to listen to the author reading it. As many very successful people that write autobiographies are amazing speakers too. And Maya Angelou once said that people might not remember what you said, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. Now, the book that I'm about to tell you about is very self-deprecating, and it's read by the best public speaker alive today. And so, without further ado, my bipartisan recommended book of the month to listen to in order to improve your ability to speak gooder is, and you'll definitely recognize his voice when I say this, Alexa, read me my audio book.
Getting your selection from Audible. Resuming a Promised Land. There's 55 minutes left in the chapter and 1 day, 1 hour, 33 minutes left in this title.
Seasoned opponents already understood this. I embarrassed myself early in their presence at a healthcare
Alexa,
forum
stop.
spot.
Okay. Now, regardless of your political affiliation, we can learn a lot by observing how successful public speakers do it. And if you get a chance, search YouTube for Obama DNC 2004 speech. Obama 2004 DNC speech. Okay, and of course, this is way before he was president. And watch this if you can. So, again, it's a bipartisan comment, but I have to repeat the quote from Maya Angelou. People might not remember what you said, but they'll never forget the way you made them feel. Are you too old to start a new career? Well, what if I told you that you're actually 26 years younger than you think you are? Well, it is true, you are. Now, since the 1950s, the average life expectancy is 26 years longer today than it was in the 1950s, which means you are not 55 years old, you are 29. Now, Phil Mickelson is now the oldest PGA champion at the age of 50, which means he's 24. And any company that won't hire you because of your age should be sued, and they will be. It's coming in the not too distant future, but that's going to be a subject of another vlog. Now, thinking that we are too old to reinvent ourselves is up here. So how do you do it? How do you reinvent yourself and change careers to get the job of your dreams? Well, you might be thinking, how the heck do I use this LinkedIn thing and compete? How do I network? How do I write the best resume? I'm out of touch. I haven't done that in years. How do I answer questions about my weaknesses and turn them into strengths, given your wealth of experience? How do you do this? Well, I've got a gift for you today because I care. And I know you can get that dream job and reinvent yourself regardless of your age. Now, over 100,000 students of mine have taken this course I'm going to give to you for free in a second. And many have gotten the jobs of their dreams at all ages. And so my gift to you is, if you come with me to my website, I'll show you where to get the gift from. So go to harounventures.com. And at harounventures.com, you're going to enter here / all lowercase, complete job, all lowercase. harounventures.com / complete job, all lowercase. And you can download my complete job course, which will help you get the best resume, LinkedIn profile, as well as how to interview better than anybody. And it's free for a short amount of time, so you can get it here today. And so you can retool very quickly and learn how to program from scratch at any age as well by searching. And I'll show you the best teacher on the planet here. So if you do a search for Angela Yu and Udemy, and by the way, I don't get brownie points for mentioning Udemy stuff. It's an algorithm. If my courses suck, many of them do, they won't sell. So Dr. Angela Yu is probably the best teacher on the planet. And she teaches you about programming. So if you missed the tech boat years ago, you can learn how to code from scratch in a really fun way. You can learn how to make iOS apps, etc. And so in closing, as Seth Godin once said, you already have everything you need to build something far bigger than yourself. All right, it is now time for questions. So as you all know, you type your questions at the top, or you type your questions in YouTube, and I answer the questions in the order in which I receive them. All right, let me get some water here. All right, let's do this. Okay, let me get the right mouse here. And I've got a couple of computers running at the same time. One for Q&A, one for my production machine, my slides and all that fun stuff. All right, so let's go right to the top. The first one is from ePronto. And ePronto wrote here, "Good morning, Chris. Hope all is well. Likewise. I got my first and second dose appointments. Exciting. Make sure you take the next day off, obviously. The first shot for me, Pfizer, the Pfizer shot, it was fine. I didn't feel anything. The second one, I felt a lot. I was sick for a couple of days afterwards, but I'm glad I got it, of course." And then ePronto wrote, "I'm going through your amazing MBA program semester 1, and I have a couple of questions. Thank you. Number 1, what about hot wallets? So governments insure money in bank deposits, so your money is insured up to a certain amount. What happens if your money, meaning fiat and cryptocurrencies, if a company behind a hot wallet goes bust?" Yeah. So for those of you not familiar with hot wallets, it means a wallet that has to be connected to power always, versus a traditional wallet, which is a cold wallet, or a USB token wallet, which is a cold wallet because it doesn't have to be powered on all the time. And the hot wallet that I use is Coinbase. I'm also an investor in Coinbase. I met with Fred Urson, the founder, years ago at one of my venture capital conferences. And I feel comfortable, personally, keeping my money in Coinbase. Again, I disclose I am an investor in the company. Now, Coinbase is insured, FDIC insured, up to a certain dollar amount. And you might want to look into that first, yeah. But the way I think of Coinbase and the way I think of hot wallets is they're kind of like my checking account. And those cold wallets, the USB token ones, those are my savings accounts. And I always keep more money in my savings account. The check-ins account I use for just money I want to spend. And so I put my money on Coinbase for transactions, so to speak. And when I mine cryptocurrencies, it goes to my Coinbase account. And then once a bunch of money is there, I transfer it to my regular bank account. Yeah. All right. Next question is, when one has a small amount to invest every month, meaning a surplus from a paycheck, does it make more sense to invest in ETFs or stocks? Great question, yeah. And I'm glad you didn't mention mutual funds, because mutual funds are an absolute scam. And anybody that owns mutual funds, what I want you to do, please, is I want you to go to my website. I go to Power Search. And then what I want you to do is I want you to do a search on mutual funds. And this will save you, this will save you a lot of money. Wrong keyboard, sorry about that. All my cards are going everywhere. Look at this, man. All over the place. But what you can do is you can do a search for mutual funds. And mutual funds are an absolute scam. I promise you, watching this will save you a lot of money in the long run. There are crazy, ridiculous fees when it comes to mutual funds. Hidden fees. You pay higher taxes on mutual funds too, because they buy and sell stocks all year long, and you pay more capital gains that way. So yes, ETFs are definitely the way to go. Let me get back on track here, sorry. Now, if you have time to do your own research on stocks, then buy stocks instead, because nobody is smarter than you, and I provide my students with a large number of tools to learn how to invest. If you don't have time to do research on stocks, then what you can do if you want to is you can buy ETFs, because the fees on ETFs are quite low. And my go-to ETF is the SPY. And let me actually show you that. Hold on one second, how to do that. All right. Having some issues today, folks. That's okay. The older I get, the better I was. So what you do is you go to Yahoo Finance, finance.yahoo.com. And you search here for ETFs, or what you can do is type up the ETF you know about or are interested in. So for me, my go-to ETF is the SPY. Okay, it's an ETF that represents 500 stocks in the S&P 500. Now, before investing in any ETF, the first thing you need to do is you need to find out what the fees are. So if we click here on profile for the S&P, we see that the fee or expense ratio is 0.09. That's very, very, very low. And if you can buy ETFs that have an expense ratio under 0.5%, that's a pretty good deal. Yeah. And I like the fact that you're talking about investing because whenever you get each paycheck, what you need to do right away is have a certain amount, if you can, deduct it. As Warren Buffett said, you want to spend what is left after saving instead of saving what is left after spending. Always max out your 401k or your retirement savings account based on what country you're in. There are retirement savings accounts in every single country. All right. Next up, E. Pronto wrote, I have a business idea for you. Thank you. My high school kid takes business classes, and I often help her understand the basics. You have a unique way of explaining things that are fun. Have you considered a business course for teens? I've thought about it, but I think my courses are simple enough for anybody to be able to take. And I used to have my own column at Inc. magazine, and my editor criticized me a lot, and he was right. He said, Chris, stop trying to write like you're writing for The Economist. Write at an 8th grade level. And so that's what I do, which is easy for me because that's my maturity. I write at an 8th grade level. And so all my courses are set up so anybody can understand them, I think. Yeah. And this is coming from a guy that got a D in accounting. I got a D in accounting because I was memorizing accounting when I was younger. And I got a D. I'd take it again. And I took it again. I got a little bit better in a D, but I was understanding accounting that way. So the way I teach is based on my many failures. All right, next up, Andreas wrote here, hi, Chris. I don't have any questions. I just want to thank you for making these Udemy courses. I'm on my 3rd one of yours. And as a teen that is super interested in business, it's helped me immensely. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. By the way, I'm going to announce pretty soon how you can win. One person today will win my $909 MBA degree program. And if you already have it, please don't participate in the test question I'm going to ask you soon. But the way it works is I'll ask you a question soon, and whoever answers it correctly in the chat wins my MBA degree program. All right, next up, Manav is saying, how frequently should I take your MBA course per week? Like how many days per week? Yeah. So the way the program is set up is you have the rest of your life to take it. You know, once you purchase it, so sorry. I'm really messing up the button. But once you purchase it, and you can always go to my website to learn more. Once you purchase it, I add 10 to 20 hours of new content every year, like derivatives and option stuff I'm adding later this year to Class 89. But you can take it on your own terms always in the Silver On Demand program. And so the way the program works is there are 100 classes that are 3 hours long each. And after each class, there's a very simple short quiz. And to get the MBA, you just have to get over 50% on half the quizzes. And so 100 classes times 3 hours each, that's 300 hours. Okay. And so if you want to take 2 classes a week, meaning 6 hours, it'll take you probably 52 weeks to do it. If you want to do 1 class per week, it'll take you 2 years. And if you want to binge watch it, do all 300 plus hours in 1 or 2 months, you can certainly do so as well. All right, and you have access forever. Next up, Eric, thank you for your support. Next up, Eric wrote, Chris, first time I'm commenting here, thank you. My question is, how can I maximize retention during online learning? I've noticed if I just watch videos, I don't really remember much. Do you have any tricks to help? Absolutely. So the courses that do the best are usually the ones where you pick up a portable skill immediately, right? You learn something the first 5 or 10 minutes. And so repetition is the mother of all skill. I would take the quizzes and do all the exercises that are assigned to you in these online courses. And when it comes to my students, and I say this with love in my heart, I can take you to the water, but I can't force you to drink. And so I recommend practicing the concepts that I or other teachers teach. Now, the way to do it is in my MBA degree program, everyone has free access to Slack. And a lot of my students network with each other that way. And you can go to zoom.com and sign up for a free Zoom account and practice presenting to each other, or practice interviewing with each other, or practice financial modeling and the other stuff I teach with each other. You have to practice it a lot. All right. And if you're not retaining information, when I teach, and I try to teach in an edutaining way. If you're not retaining it, then shame on me for not doing a good job. So if you want, let me know what lessons you've taken of mine where you're not retaining it, and I'll fix those. Thank you. All right. Next up, Hari. Hey, Hari. Hari wrote, very good evening, Chris. Likewise. Thank you. Is it okay if we complete EMS first of your semesters and then take the other content in the MBA degree program? That's fine. That's fine. Yeah, there's 5 different tracks. The first one is Economics Management and Strategy, EMS. We've got Sales, Marketing, and Communications, Entrepreneurship, Finance and Accounting, and Personal Growth. Choose your own adventure. Take whatever interests you the most. And then Hari also wrote, I'm planning on getting into strategy consulting and parallelly doing online teaching. I want to be an entrepreneur down the line. Can you say something about this? Yeah. So what I would say is you don't have to wait until later to teach. A lot of people think, I want to make a lot of money, yada, yada, and then be a teacher. And I love teachers. They're amazing because a lot of teachers don't do it for the money. But now you can teach on the side. It's the best side hustle. And if you want to learn how to teach online, I have a bunch of free courses that you can actually take. And so all you have to do is go to Udemy, Chris Haroun. And I released a couple courses on this. And these courses actually are based on the many mistakes that I've made teaching online. And I want you all to work smarter and not harder. So if you go to my Udemy profile, what you'll find is if you scroll through all the courses, I have courses that teach you how to teach online. Okay, again, based on my mistakes. And I've done it in many different languages as well. So one of them is called 40 Tips on Making a Great Online Course. Another one is called Another 40 Tips on Making a Great Online Course. Those are 80 things I teach about based on my 80 mistakes. And I hope you find that helpful. And if you have questions about that, as always, please let me know. And thank you for your support. I appreciate it. All right. Now, in terms of strategy consulting, if you want to work for McKinsey, for example, or the Boston Consulting Group, 2 companies that rejected me, what you can do is you can take my complete job course, which I'm offering today for free, as I mentioned a little bit earlier today. And in terms of being an entrepreneur, so if anybody works at a big company right now and you have the entrepreneurial itch and you want to start your own thing, please, please, please write a business plan first. Because failing to plan is planning to fail. And I have a complete business plan course. And in my MBA degree program, I have a venture capital boot camp in the 3rd semester. So the way you know you have a good business plan is if you finish it. Most people never finish business plans. In fact, I've written more business plans that aren't completed than ones that are completed. Because through my methodology, my complete business plan course and the venture capital boot camp, my MBA program, through my methodology, I ask you so many questions when you're writing the business plan. I give you all the templates too. And halfway through, you might realize it's a bad business plan or bad business. So stop writing it, move on to another one. The same thing when it comes to stocks as well. Always write a 1-pager at least before buying a stock. Otherwise, what happens is you sell at the worst time. All right, next up, Demian. Hey, Demian. Demian Valenzuela lives in Spain. I had a call with him recently, and I was telling him he has to buy a Fernando Valenzuela jersey, great Mexican baseball player, for himself and his kids. So Demian, who's in my MBA program, said, "Dear Chris, a big hug from Barcelona. Thank you, my favorite city. Hope you are well likewise. You've spoken that the best business models are those based on platforms like Amazon or Salesforce. Yes. Can you please help us understand the process of creating these platforms and how to adapt it to any new business?" Yeah. So yeah, the best business models in history are the ones where you create the road and you charge the cars. But the trick is this. How do you get those cars to come to your road? How do you get users? There has to be some sort of self-service so that you own the road, but you don't create the content itself. For example, Facebook is a social media platform, but they don't make social media content. Udemy is an ed tech platform, but they themselves don't make courses. Uber is a taxi platform, but they don't own taxis. And the same thing with Airbnb. They don't own hotels. So you have to find a way to incentivize people to use your platform and make it easy as well. And so what happened with Pinterest as a platform is the way that people initially signed up for Pinterest was they used their Facebook account to do so. And the way that many people sign up for other platforms is they use their Gmail account as well. So you need to tap into the API or application programming interface of those aforementioned social media websites or Gmail addresses, whatever. You got to tap into the API and figure out a way to use that easily. It's not hard to do, to get people to quickly sign up. And there's got to be a carrot as well. You have to give something away. For me, I give away a book on my website, or I give away courses as well. And that's how you get a lot of subscribers. If you build it, they will come, but you have to give away freebies as well. Okay. And then Demian wrote, many thanks and God bless you. And God bless you way more. Next up, we have Mike Flynn. Mike wrote, hey, Chris, what are your thoughts on Cardano as an investment at this time compared to some of the other cryptos like Bitcoin and Ethereum? I don't own it. I did before. I don't anymore. That's all I'll say. I'll tell you what 4 cryptos I own and have owned and will never sell. And they are as follows. And I publicly said this too. And please do your own research always. Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ripple, I know, as well as Ethereum or Ether on the Ethereum platform. And I'm mining Ether right now. You can go to harounventures.com/crypto, all lowercase crypto, to check out my mining computer, which is running right now, which hasn't been doing as well recently given the pullback in Ethereum. But I don't care, because when it comes to all of my investments, I don't know the path, but I know the destination. Or at least I think I do. Not always. Next up, Vendel wrote, hey, Chris, what are the differences between shorting and put options? When you use shorts and when to use puts? Yeah. So the way it works is when you buy a stock, you're long the stock. Okay. And whenever you bet against a stock, you're short the stock. And you can make money, obviously, with a short if the stock goes down. The problem is, though, you can have unlimited losses when it comes to shorts. So I don't recommend that you use shorts. Because if the stock goes up a lot, you lose a lot of money. And if you're short a stock with a dividend, you actually have to pay the dividend as well because you're renting that stock. What I prefer using instead of shorts are puts. Now, puts are financial instruments where they're called options, right? So a put option means you buy a small amount of something, a stock, right? A put for the stock. And if it goes down, you make a lot of money. If it goes up, all you lose is this. So I definitely recommend puts instead of shorts. And I'll be explaining this in much more detail in my upcoming Udemy course called The Complete Derivatives, Options, and Futures course. All right. Next up, ePronto is saying, can retail investors trade directly on the stock market, like the TSX, which is the Toronto Stock Exchange? And I worked in that IPO when I was at Goldman. Can retail investors trade directly on the stock exchange, TSX and Nasdaq, etc.? Or do we always have to use intermediaries like Robinhood, Questrade, etc., as trading platforms and pay high transaction fees? Yeah, Robinhood's fees are basically zero or close to zero. And so it doesn't make sense to set up your own broker-dealer to trade directly on an exchange because the startup costs are too high. I recommend only using brokers, yeah. Next up, Roberto Martinez wrote, hey, Chris and everyone, looking forward to today's topic. Thank you, Chris. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. All right. Next up, somebody wrote, breaking news. OSC will make Poloniex illegal in Ontario. Oh, fascinating. So for those of you not familiar with the OSC, it's like the SEC, but in Canada, in the province of Ontario. OSC stands for the Ontario Securities Commission. So they're going to make an exchange called Poloniex illegal in Ontario due to non-compliance. Wow. What's your thought on the news and crypto market compliance in general? Yeah. Well, I haven't seen what they did, but this is just the first step of many when it comes to cryptocurrency regulation. You know, governments are going to get in on it and they're going to regulate to protect the consumer. You know, governments do have noble intentions. And so if exchanges are not compliant, then yeah, they'll get fined or forced to shut down. It's coming. Crypto regulation is coming soon. A Federal Reserve governor recently said positive things about cryptos. And even Jerome Powell, who's the head of the Federal Reserve in America, meaning the person that is in charge of printing money, Jerome Powell recently said they're working on something right now. They're working on it with MIT, and the working paper will be out this summer in terms of the United States potentially issuing a crypto within 2 years, according to people familiar with the matter. It's coming. It's coming. Yeah. Too many people are getting scammed not to have some sort of loose regulation. Next up, Ashira wrote, "Hey, Chris. Hey. What are some important books you wish that you had read earlier, that is, in your teens, early 20s, that would have helped you in your career and in life in general?" Thanks. Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, there's a couple. I read when I was younger a great book called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Everybody's got to read that. Turn me off now and get the Audible book and listen to it. How to Win Friends and Influence People. It teaches you how to deal with people in business and understand that sometimes people in business are creatures of emotion and not creatures of logic. So that's a good one I would have read. Aside from that, I read a lot as a kid. Finance books, etc. Liar's Poker was my favorite one, which is about bond trading at Salomon Brothers back in the 70s and 80s. Barbarians at the Gate is another great one if you want to learn all about private equity. Yeah, that sort of thing. Yeah. And if you're just getting into investing and you're tempted to really trade a lot, careful, please. I want you to read a book by Nassim Taleb, a brilliant Lebanese man. My mom is Lebanese. And that book is called Fooled by Randomness. Also, read anything that Stephen Levitt writes, like Freakonomics. Those are fun. Helps you think differently about business. And also anything that Malcolm Gladwell writes as well. And he's from Toronto, which is my hometown. And he talks a lot about how to incentivize people in business in his books. It's fascinating. Next up, Jack Sparrow wrote, "Yo, how are you?" And Pratik, how are you? Pratik said, "Hi, Chris. Hope all's well. I missed you, man. Hope you're doing well." Got a question here from Casper, who's saying, if we expect hyperinflation to happen and the stock market to crash, then wouldn't it be smart to keep a position of cash, meaning amount we're willing to invest? If so, what percent? Yeah, I usually like to have at least 5% dry powder ready at any point in time. It's hard predicting market peaks and troughs, though. Like I used to work for this brilliant man, God bless him, Art Sandberg. He just passed away from pancreatic cancer. But he ran the biggest hedge fund in the world at one point called Pequot. And I remember telling Art back in 2006, he came out here to California to visit with us. I said, "Art, we're thinking about shorting the home builders like Lennar, ticker LEN, and KBH, ticker KBH, because there's a real estate bubble." And he stopped us from pitching that. Very politely, he said, "Son, I've been around long enough to understand never to stand in the way of insanity. You know, markets peak, markets trough. You can't time it. Maybe you'll miss the first 20% sell-off, and that will tell you to get out. I don't know. But you got to be long-term focused, because nobody knows when the market will or won't crash. Nobody knows. And it'll probably be caused by some sort of black swan event, which is the title of a famous book by Nicholas Taleb. Black swans are rare. Most swans are white. And a black swan event that causes the market to sell off is something you can't forecast, like 9/11 or COVID, for example. Yeah. All right. Next up, ePronto is saying, you say that fiat currency, meaning paper-based currency, is not a great investment because governments can print unlimited supply. At the same time, I know you're going with this. At the same time, you like Ethereum crypto, but it doesn't have a max supply either. Can you explain your love for Ethereum? Thanks. Yeah, that is a great question, and I can't answer that intelligently because there is no limit on the amount of Ethereum that's going to be created. However, what I do love about the Ethereum platform is that it is a platform, like all the best investments in tech out there. It is a platform that other people use. So as I explained earlier today, NFTs are on this platform, the Ethereum platform. When cryptocurrencies do ICOs, meaning they're going public, a lot of them do it on this platform. And so Ethereum is one of the most important platforms in the world. But touche, you're right. You're right. I can't intelligently talk about supply when it comes to Ethereum. I can't. And I don't think we've found the Google of cryptos yet. What do I mean by that? Well, back in the 1990s, there was a lot of different search engines, right? There was Yahoo, Alta Vista, Ask Jeeves, InfoSeek, a bunch of them. And then all of a sudden, in 1998, Larry and Sergey founded Google. It was a better mousetrap. So there is no Google yet of cryptocurrencies. I thought at one point it would have been Ethereum, but the supply issue is something that bothers me. It does, but I love their platform. So I'm still looking for the Google of cryptos. I'm looking closely. And in my courses and in my MBA degree program, I give you many, many ways to analyze cryptocurrencies so that you can find out what the Google is of cryptos. Excellent question. Thank you. Next up, Moz wrote, love you, Chris. Thank you. And you're awesome. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. I suggest if you can make a mastermind group of students in my MBA program for similar interests. Yeah, I have that actually. So what you do is when you sign up for my MBA degree program, we have Slack everybody can use. And within Slack, people create different channels, different mastermind channels, I guess, so to speak. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Casper wrote, I saw you also advise people to look at TIPS. Yeah. So TIPS, for those who are not familiar with it, TIPS, are Treasury Inflation Protected Securities. And what that means is it's United States government debt that if inflation goes up, that goes up just as much as well. So you're protected, hence the name, Treasury Inflation Protected Securities. Yeah. So you wrote, I saw you advise people to look at TIPS. I've heard that they're doing terrible if there's no hyperinflation. So how are these securities going to behave when the Fed will raise interest rates? Yeah. So when the Fed raises interest rates, these things will do well because I humbly believe that the Fed will raise interest rates when there is inflation. Yeah. And it's coming too. Like all around us, the prices of everything are going up tremendously. You know, lumber prices are at an all-time high. I've never seen an economic environment ever before where we've had so many bubbles at the same time. You know, you got a crypto bubble, NFT bubble, stock market bubble, real estate bubble, private equity bubble, whatever it is. All that. And that's not a bad thing for a little while because we've never, ever had an issue like COVID hurting business and people like it has before. In the United Kingdom, for example, last year in the second quarter, GDP dropped 20% year over year. That didn't even happen when the Germans were bombing London. And so desperate times call for desperate measures. You know, we live in interesting times. And so the way to make people feel richer and spend more, you know, to keep the world civil, is by governments keeping rates artificially low for a little bit longer than they should. And so what happens is you feel richer because your stocks are going up, you spend more money, which is good for the economy, etc. Right? This won't last forever, I promise you. And governments are starting to slowly imply, yes, we're seeing a little bit of inflation out there. It's not a little bit, it's a lot. It's a lot. And so I am not buying stocks now. I like to buy stocks when the VIX spikes near an all-time high. That's when I back up the truck. Yeah. And that's my vlog that's getting published today at what time are we at? 9:25. It should have dropped already. I talk about the VIX and how to use that. And it always works. That's right. It always works. When the VIX is at an all-time high, you buy stocks. And when the VIX spikes to an all-time high, ticker VIX, it's going to feel awful. Like we're all going to think the world is ending. But when it comes to investing, things are never as good as they seem, and things are never as bad as they seem as well. Buy when there's blood in the streets, when the VIX spikes to an all-time high. Yeah, or at least above 50. Right now it's 20-ish, I think. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Olani wrote, what is the future of auditing, and what should auditors look out for? Yeah. The problem with the accounting industry in general is there's no centralized repository or Yelp, so to speak, to find out who's a good accountant. It's a little bit ridiculous the way it works. It's very fragmented. If you want to get an accountant, you ask your rich aunt or uncle or friend or parents or coworkers, whatever it is. And so I think there's going to be some sort of centralized repository for accountants and for auditing best practices as well. Someone's going to start that company and do exceptionally well. But it's tough for me to tell you about the future from a legislative perspective because I have no idea what laws governments are going to create when it comes to taxes. Never do your own taxes. Always get an accountant because the laws change all the time. And we just don't have time to stay up to date with all these laws. Okay. All All right, next up, hey, Colin. Good to see you again. Colin wrote, greetings, Chris. Have you any knowledge of the feasibility of self-publishing on draft to digital? I don't. I've never seen that before, but I want to mention to all of you that you can all write your own books starting today. It'll do wonders for your career. I have a template I'm going to show you, but first, one of my amazing MBA students, Phil Germany, wrote this book called The Fat Loss Formula. It's his third book. This is doing wonders for his career. And the way he wrote this book was he used a template that I provide to all my students for free. And this is the template I use to write all my books. So if you want to get this template, go to harounventures.com/writebook, all lowercase. Okay. And basically this template, it's just a Microsoft Word document. And on the first page, I give you instructions on how to publish for free on Amazon Kindle, Amazon Print, as well as Audible. And it's just a template. You fill it out, and then you right-click on the table of contents and repaginate. Yeah. Everyone should write a book. But I don't have any, no, I don't know what draft to digital is, though, sorry. Okay. Next up, Colin wrote, have you considered including negotiation in your MBA course? Somebody else asked about that. I will create content for that. I promise you. Thank you. And the MBA program is always going to be up to date. Very up to date. If new social media platforms are created that people use to take their career to the next level, I'll learn that and I'll add it as well. It's always going to be very much up to date. Yeah. Thank you for asking. Next up, Mohammed wrote, hey, Chris, last week I asked you about how I can secure funding to study in the United States, and you said that I should contact high net worth investors and ask them to help me with a loan. Yeah, and it also, there are scholarships available. Like, if somebody wants to go to school but they're worried about the money, get in first and then look into scholarships. You know, ask and you'll receive. It's prophetic. It's been true since the beginning of time. There are tons of scholarships out there. Yeah, and student loans as well. And then you wrote here, I found an organization that provides student loans with very low interest rates. The problem is that the organization might not be able to provide me with money as an international student. If I'm going to contact the CEO, what should I say? I have no connections with this person, but he mentioned that one of the reasons he started his organization is because he wasn't able to afford to go to college. Yeah. So I don't know how to best answer that, but what I will say is earlier today I talked about how to bond before business by looking at people's Twitter profiles, LinkedIn profiles, etc., and finding something in common. If you're looking on networking to meet people for an informational interview of any kind, then please take my jobs course for free. It's free today. Go to harounventures.com/complete job. All lowercase, complete job, or go to my homepage, my website, and download my networking book. It works, I promise you. Okay, next up, Elle wrote, hey, Chris, I have a question about something called the Wyckoff distribution. Do you think this is a credible way to explain what happened in the recent crypto crash? Yeah, I don't know what that is, but I'm adding content to my MBA degree program, and it's part of my option stuff that's going to teach you statistics in a fun way, right? This is a Galton board, which is the normal distribution model. It's a fun toy. And I think the problem with statistics is, and calculus and all that stuff, is it's not taught in a fun way. And I'm going to demystify the process as well with statistics classes coming to my MBA program very soon later this year. Yeah. Okay. Next up, ePronto wrote, what's your opinion on cryptocurrency volatility over the past year? I mean, the last 52-week highs and lows are just mind-boggling. Is it still your belief that cryptos are a good long-term investment? Certain ones, yes. I still believe that most cryptos are a scam. And when I started making my complete cryptocurrency course, at first I was 7 out of 10 positive. And by the end, I was 3 out of 10 positive. Yes, I do love a bunch of cryptos, but I think most of them are scams. There are more cryptocurrencies in the world now than there are fiat or paper-based currencies. And it is a bubble. Am I buying cryptocurrencies right now? No. I buy when everyone's freaking out. The time to buy is when there's blood in the streets. And as I mentioned earlier, please monitor the VIX, V-I-X. When it spikes a lot, all speculative investments are going to go down a lot, and that's when you back up the truck. Yeah. All right. Next up, Polash wrote, I love you, Chris. I love you too. Thank you. Dennis is saying, hey, Chris, if you had to build a company right now, how would you be going about it? Yeah. So I always recommend writing a business plan. Always, always, always. And I pride myself on teaching my students how to start a company with no money or barely any money. The barriers to entry are non-existent now. You don't have to be in the Bay Area or Hyderabad to start a tech company. You can be anywhere because all the tools you need are basically free, close to free. And as Seth Godin said, you already have everything you need to build something far bigger than yourself. I believe it. Now, before starting a company, you have to write a business plan. And in my MBA degree program, I provide you with all the arrows in your quiver or tools in your toolbox to tackle any business problem when it comes to starting a company. Please write that business plan first. Okay. Next up, Manas. Hey, Manas. Manas wrote, good morning, my dear mentor. Lots of love to you and to your family from India. Likewise. And I hope things are getting better COVID-wise in India. Yeah. And if anybody watching this is from India, go to my LinkedIn profile. And at the top of my LinkedIn profile, I give away an entire MBA in one course in Hindi subtitles. Yeah. We're all in this together. And Manas wrote, it's raining here really heavily and we are enjoying it. How are you? I guess the situation is great there. It's getting better. It's not perfect by any means, COVID-wise. And just about 45 minutes south of me yesterday, there was a shooting, man. 9 people died. Why are guns legal? I don't get it. It's ridiculous. Yeah. But COVID-wise, things are getting better, thank goodness. And the Biden administration, from a bipartisan perspective, has done a superb job at this. Now we're at a point where we have too many vaccines, and it's time to share. And I think the Biden administration is going to be sharing with a lot of countries, including India and my beloved Canada, where the handling of COVID has been an absolute disaster. Yeah. But things are getting better. It's crazy, though, because I go outdoors to the mall or, to car dealerships, whatever, and they're packed. They're packed. And if you want to get, hair appointments, and for the first time ever, first time in a couple of decades, I had somebody cut my hair. You've got to book months and months and months and months and months in advance. So if you're going to book travel, you got to book it now. Yeah, things are selling. It's crazy. Yeah. All right. Next up, Polash wrote, I want to be like you, Chris. No. Thank you, though. Thank you. If I could be like anybody, I would be like Mike. Remember that commercial, Be Like Mike? Michael Jordan said, I failed over and over again in my life, and that's why I succeed. I love this. I got this from Etsy. Get one of these things made up with your favorite quote. Put it on your wall. It's a small investment to motivate you big time. Next up, Manas wrote, when are your kids getting vaccinated? Because your elder son, 17, is a year younger than me. We all fall in the same category. So when are they getting the Pfizer or Moderna? And how's Canada? Yeah. And so I'm in the States, but my parents and brother and sisters are in Canada. So my kids, and they're a bit older now. Andrew has already been vaccinated with Pfizer. Matthew next week, and Dylan, because he's 11, we're waiting a bit. Yeah. But what's going to happen is all kids will get vaccinated before school starts. And hopefully it starts. My kids are still all at home. Yeah. Because of COVID. Yeah. They're in public schools. And I prefer public schools over private schools any day, unless you live in a terrible school district. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Manas wrote, my dear mentor, my 3rd and 4th book are coming in a month. I want something from you. I want a forward from you so that I'll have that at the front cover. Just a request. Can you please give me a forward? I'm happy to humbly provide a quote if you want. Yeah. And just best way is just contact me over LinkedIn. Thank you. Next up, Manas wrote, Vimeo has gone public on Nasdaq now, but it's still an LLC. Why is that? Is there any specific reason behind that? I actually don't know. I don't know because what happens usually, companies that are private, they start out as sole proprietorships, and then they grow a bit when they're private, and they incorporate as an LLC, meaning limited liability company. And then the investment bankers make them or tell them to change to a C Corp because a C Corp has fewer limitations in terms of the number of investors you have. So I don't know that question. Yeah, I don't know. Next up, Yakir wrote, hello from Israel. I hope you're all well. And thank you, Chris. Thank you. I appreciate that. I went to Israel actually with my family in the summer of 2017 We went to Jerusalem, and I bought a coin there from the year 30 AD. It has Pontius Pilate on one side of it, and it costs next to nothing. Why? Because governments made the same mistakes then that they do today. They print too much of this stuff. And so through lots of excavations in the Middle East, they're finding tons of these coins underground. And the reason hundreds of years later that the Roman Empire went belly up was because they printed too much currency. Yeah. All right. Next up, Manas wrote, if you had an option of working with Steve Jobs or the Beatles, whom would you have chosen? Wow. Steve or the Beatles? I know that's a really tough choice and a pathetic question. Just imagine it. No, I love that question. Let me show you something here. It would be the Beatles. They're probably easier managers than Steve was. And I had friends that worked with Steve Jobs, and they told me, dude, never get into an elevator with him because by the time the elevator ride is done, you're out of work. Yeah, it would be the Beatles. And interestingly enough, Apple and the Beatles were in a lawsuit for years, right? Because Apple wanted to own Apple Computers or Apple Inc., their brand, and the Beatles have Apple Records. And the Beatles were they were brilliant from a marketing perspective. This is a great business lesson. This is fascinating. So what happened was with the Beatles, this is Abbey Road, their best record came out around 1970. There was a rumor that Paul McCartney was dead. And so what they did was they played with this because controversy sells. It works. They're playing with the media. And so this here is a funeral procession. Okay, so right here, John Lennon, ironically enough, is the priest. Ringo Starr is the pallbearer. Okay. George Harrison, God bless him, good man, especially what he did for Bangladesh. George Harrison is the gravedigger. And Paul McCartney here, who has a cigarette, is the corpse. And he's in bare feet as well, signifying death. More importantly, the cigarette signifies death. And right here is a Volkswagen Beetle, clever. And on the license plates of this Beetle, it says 28 if, meaning Paul McCartney would be 28 if he were alive today. And this album was unbelievable. It's incredible, gorgeous sonic architecture. And the story behind this was supposed to be their last album. And they were going to shoot the cover image of the album at the top of Mount Everest. And then they got lazy. I don't know why. And they said, screw it. And they just walked across the street from Abbey Road Studios where they recorded this. They took this picture. That's it. But they played around a lot with controversy as well. You know, even on Sgt. Pepper's, which is a brilliant album, on the inside here, this is kind of tough to see, but here, Paul McCartney on his shoulder is a badge that people thought said OPD, meaning officially pronounced dead. But it's actually OPP. Yeah, you know me. No, OPP, which is the Ontario Provincial Police. Yeah. So the bottom line is the Beatles were brilliant at marketing and controversy. And I would love to work with the Beatles instead of Steve Jobs any day, although I respect both parties. Love that question. Thank you. Next up, Vipul wrote, hello, Chris. How are you? I'm always great. Thank you. And I hope you're doing well as well. Thank you. And I sound a little bit less tired, I think, hopefully. And I've been looking into this. And so if you have an interview, a job interview, and it's first thing in the morning and you have a groggy voice, right? Like I get up at 7:30 for this 8 a.m. call. Then you could take one of these products, Vocal Zone. I'm not sponsored. I never will be ever by anybody. I don't care if that means my channel doesn't grow fast. It doesn't matter. It's all about the student. But you take one of these things. It's a lozenge, right? And it makes you sound less tired. Yeah. But I'm always great. If I sound not great, I am great. Thank you. And Tibby Shark said, I just joined. Thanks for the reminder. You're most welcome. Thank you. And then Vishnu is saying, the VIX Volatility Index was explained in webcast 137. Yes, it was. Yeah. And this morning, my vlog that dropped 41 minutes ago called The Golden Rule talks about that in more detail. Thank you. All right. Kevin, how are you? Good morning to you as well. Mr. Invisible is saying, hey, Chris, hope you're doing well. Likewise. You look amazing today. Thank you. Thank you. You like this is beautiful. What is that, velvet? You like that? Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. And then you wrote, what is the yield curve and why is it important? And how many times inverted yield curve predicted a recession? Yeah. So let me first of all explain what all this means. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over and show you a yield curve right here. Okay. And actually, give me 1 second. I'm going to go off script here and try something different and see if I can actually draw it for you. Let's do that. This will be fun, actually. Yeah. All right. Please work. Oops. No, it's not working. Sorry. I can't draw it. I'll get that pen fixed later. All right. So what I'll do instead of drawing it is I'll show it to you. So a yield curve basically tells you what the market thinks interest rates are going to be longer term. And the way to find out about a yield curve, and let me show you an example first. So let's look at a random yield curve image. Okay, so this one here, it's tough to see. This is an older one from 2018, I think. And this basically tells you time on this axis, 0 years, 5 years, 30 years, and interest rates, 1%, 4%. And so back in 2018, when this yield curve was made, the market was forecasting rates would go from 1.6%, and then 5 years later, by 2023, rates would be close to 3%, and then 30 years would be 3.2%. Okay. Now, because of COVID and the terrifying economic environment globally, this yield curve has shifted down a lot. And I'll show you where to get the real-time data for this. So what you do is you go to treasury.gov, which is the United States office or government office that tells you what interest rates are. And you can map this yourself as well. So recall I showed you on the x-axis was time, the y-axis was the interest rate. And so as of May 3rd, and I'll talk about the more recent data in a minute because it tells a story. But as of May 3rd, the 1 month yield curve was 0.02%, very, very low. Recall back in 2018 from that chart I showed you, the 1 month yield curve was like 1.6%, right? So it's a lot lower now, right? Because things are scary. Governments cut interest rates. Then if you look at the 30-year, it's 2.3%. It's higher. Okay, so basically it looks like this, a regular yield curve like the one I showed you. I'll talk about inverted in a second. Now, this was from May 3rd. Sorry if my face is covering it. Yeah. So May 3rd, the 1 month was 0.02%, and the 30-year was 2.3%. So if we now look at today, or the 26th, this is crazy. But basically, and this might be a typo, it says 0%, or maybe that's 0.0004, right? I've never seen it that low before. Wow. And then here it's 2.27%. So the 30-year went down to 2.27% and on May 3rd it was 2.3%. It's lower now, right? So that means the market is pricing in that rates are going to stay low for quite a while. Now, what happens is when rates are really high, sometimes you get what's called an inverted yield curve. And what that means is this. Instead of the yield curve looking like this, it looks like this. Like this, yeah. So people use the yield curve to try to understand where rates are going to be in the future. And before moving on to the next question, I'm begging all of you, please, 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 please. If you have a mortgage on your house or your apartment and you haven't called your mortgage broker or the bank to refinance this year, please do it. Please. Because rates are going to go up a lot eventually. Yeah. All right. And in terms of do inverted yield curves predict a recession? Last time I saw a significant inverted yield curve was back in the late 1990s when rates were here, and then later on they were predicting that rates would be lower. I remember that well. It was the go-go 90s. The economy was doing well globally, not because of tech stocks or tech companies, but because the Berlin Wall fell in 1989. And when the Berlin Wall fell in 1989, you had all of this cheap, brilliant Eastern European labor moving west. And the biggest input into any company or product or service is the price of labor. And so that kept rates artificially low in the 90s. And that might explain one of the reasons why there was a bull market back in the 90s. But it's so hard to predict recessions. It's hard. And there's a famous quote, I'm going to butcher it, which is something along the lines of, Economists have predicted 75 of the past 3 recessions. It's hard, yeah. But we do know that the economy is always cyclical. Boom, bust, echo. Repeat, repeat, repeat. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Dello wrote, hey, Chris, hope you're well. Likewise. Do you think you will mint any NFTs in the next 5 years? And if so, what kind? Thanks. Yeah. It's so funny you say that because I was doing research on Charlie Bit My Finger. Do you guys remember that video came out 14 years ago with those 2 cute little boys in England? One kid Charlie bit his finger. It's a funny video. You've all seen it, I'm sure. And what they did was they took that off of YouTube and they auctioned it off. And somebody bought it for, I think, auctioned it off as an NFT. Somebody bought it for $500,000 or something. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. I think that at some point my courses will accept cryptos and maybe some sort of NFT. Maybe. I just don't know. In terms of me making an NFT, yeah, I'll probably do it just because I'm a nerd. It's fun. All right. But that'll be the worst investment ever for you guys. Next up, Yakir wrote, for those who have already purchased the MBA program like me, will we need to purchase the real estate and options course or will it be added to us? Yeah, no, I'm going to add a much more elaborate version of the content of that to the MBA program. It'll always be up to date as well. Yeah. And so later this year, I'm releasing 2 courses. One is the complete options and derivatives course. And the other one is a complete real estate course, working very, very hard on it. Options is tricky for me, though. It's tricky because it's so hard to explain it in a fun and intuitive way, which is why I bought, like I usually do, a lot of props. This is the normal distribution thing. And anyway, yeah. So, yeah. But I'm not going to release it until it's intuitive and fun. Yeah, yeah. And sometimes when I write courses, it feels a little bit like work, and if it does, I stop right away. Yeah, but not with this one. It's been fun. All right. Next up, I've got, let's see here. All right. Fred is saying, hey, Fred, how are you? Fred is from Baltimore, and he's in my MBA program. Great guy. He's interested in options as well. He works in the healthcare industry and real estate as well. And he knows a lot about stocks. Great guy. Next up, Andre wrote, I pulled the Yahoo website for Bitcoin USD, meaning BTC-USD. And I noticed the algorithm says NA, that you explained in the lecture. Can you please explain why I'm seeing something different from what you're teaching? Yeah. So what Yahoo Finance, they used to list the algorithm, secure algorithm for cryptocurrencies, right? And they're not updating that data field anymore. I don't know why. But it used to say for Bitcoin, SHA-256, which is the secure algorithm that the NSA created that Bitcoin uses, right? And so that hasn't changed, but for some reason, Yahoo's not showing that data field. I don't know why. All right, next up, Abdur wrote, hi, Chris, MBA in finance or master's in finance? What's your choice if a person has more interest on hedge funds, especially? Yeah, MBA, definitely. Yeah. If you want to learn more advanced finance topics and you want to work at a hedge fund, I would just do a CFA. Okay, a Master of Finance. There's not many people that have that, right? So a CFA stands for Certified Financial Analyst designation. It takes you 3 years to do it. You just take one exam every year for 3 years, and don't buy the books they give you. Like I did level 1. Don't buy the textbooks. Go to eBay and search for Schweizer CFA, right? And don't worry if your spelling is wrong. It'll correct you. It always corrects me. And only pay $30 for used books on how to study for it. It works. And it helps you work smarter, not harder. All right. And then Shock Rolo wrote, it's from Coming to America, LOL. That's right. This is beautiful. What is this, Velvet? Yeah, you're right. I love that movie. And by the way, Coming to America with Eddie Murphy back in 1987, Coming to America was where the term mic drop came from. So you had Eddie Murphy up on stage singing as part of a ridiculous band called Sexual Chocolate, moronic. And Whitney Houston, God bless her, was up there too. And Eddie Murphy dropped the microphone in that church scene. That was the first time a mic drop occurred. Yeah. Great movie. I love that movie. All right, next up, Yakir wrote, can you explain the logic of the person we want to meet with to accept the offer to meet? Why would he meet with us? What value can we offer? Yeah. So when you're networking to get meetings, what I recommend doing is close your eyes and think of yourself 20 years in the future. 20 years in the future, you're way more successful than you already are today. And this kid reaches out to you who's 20 years younger. This kid went to the same school as you, from the same hometown, and is just like you. And this kid reaches out to you and says, do you want to grab a coffee or a quick Zoom call? Would you help that kid out? Of course you would. Now, you don't say why you want to meet in the LinkedIn in-mail that you send, and that's not unethical. It's just if you tell them why you want to meet because you want to get a job or something, they might not respond. They probably won't. Not because they don't want to help you, because they feel bad they probably can't help you, or maybe can, I don't know. So you find the hook. You send the in-mail, subject line is hi, and you open all of your in-mails in LinkedIn. I know you all do. We all do, but we don't open emails. Send an email. Subject line is hi. The contents are, I'm going to make this up, Joanne, hope all is well. I'm also from Mississauga, and I also went to the Toronto French School, and I also live here in the Bay Area. Please let me know if you have time for a quick Zoom call or a coffee when things open up. And then you write, thanks, your future boss. No, you write, thanks, Chris. It works. I promise you it does. Try it. Try it. All right. John is saying, what are your thoughts on NFTs? Yeah, and I started the show talking about NFTs as well. I think that if you're going to invest in NFTs, make sure, number one, you look at the supply. Make sure there's not too many shares out there of it. Number two, you look at the viability of it longer term. Like I talked about Wayne Gretzky, how Wayne Gretzky said that he was successful not because he skated where the puck is, but rather because he skated where the puck is going to be. Okay. Number three, you buy when everyone's freaking out. When the VIX, VIX ticker, spikes to near an all-time high or something. Yeah. You always want to be fearful when others are greedy and vice versa. All right. There goes my neighbor cutting his grass. All right. I don't think you guys can hear it. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Ubithion wrote, what do you suggest when it's been 10 years since the completion of your MBA program? I'm looking to reinvent myself in some ways. Thank you, a fellow Canadian. Represent. Awesome. Yeah. So the best advice I can give you is take my course for free called the Complete Job Course. Okay. And you go to harounventures.com/ all lowercase complete job. And I'm not going to make it free for too much longer, but grab that if you want to. It'll answer any questions you have about reinventing yourself, so to speak. Yeah. Or networking. I would probably find people that have something in common with you and send a LinkedIn in-mail to network, like I just mentioned a minute ago. Thanks. Manas wrote here, if you love the movie Three Idiots, which I do, and everybody's got to see it. It's a 2009 Bollywood film, the #1 grossing Bollywood film in history. If you have kids or if you're thinking of changing careers, please watch it. It'll change your life. It's pretty long. It's close to 3 hours. It's hysterical and serious too. I laughed and cried a couple of times. Yeah. And I watched The Notebook with my wife years ago, and I had to hide my face in the theater a bit. Yeah. Okay. Both those actors are Canadians, by the way. All right. And then you wrote here, I have a suggestion. Watch the movie Super 30. If you don't get inspired 1,000 times, I'll never suggest you anything. Okay, awesome. Thank you. I'll remember that. Super 30. Thank you. And I found out about Three Idiots from one of my students on this webcast named Hari, and one of my MBA degree graduate students, the student that graduated, named Kevin Patel. And I'm grateful to both of them for telling me. Next up, we got James Wang, who wrote, good afternoon, Chris. Good afternoon to you too. I'm an MBA student of yours. Thank you. Thank you. I love your live calls. I especially love how you stay on until all questions are answered. Very generous of your time. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. And what James is referring to is, so with my MBA program, there's an on-demand one you can sign up for today. And there's also ones where I teach it live in class and answer a gazillion questions. And the ones where I answer it live in class, the next session starts next January. If you buy the silver on-demand version for $9.99 or whatever price you pay, you will get a discount and for joining the gold or platinum program. And you'll get immediate access as well. So just go to my website for more details, harounventures.com. Thank you. All right, next up, Vishnu wrote, also listen to the song Avicii The Nights, Mr. Chris. My son Matthew listened to that, and it played it for me the other day, actually. It's funny. It's all about life in one song. Yeah, my kids are big fans. Next up, Manas wrote, I promise your mind will be blown away with how cool that movie is, Super 30. Watch it, and you'll get an emotional roller coaster ride for 2 hours. Watch it this Sunday. Copy Super 30. I will watch it. I'll watch it this weekend, and I'll report back to you next Thursday. Thank you. I appreciate that. All right, next up, Vishnu wrote, why do taxes differ from state to state in America, Mr. Chris? Yeah. So what happened was hundreds of years ago, people came over from, and this is how I learned U.S. history. I'm a Canadian, and I had to study a bit to get my citizenship. But hundreds of years ago, a bunch of people came over from Europe, and they created a system in America that was kind of greatest hits of everything that they thought worked in Europe, right? And that's part of the U.S. Constitution. And they were against a monarchy or too much power at the top. And so what the Founding Fathers did, and you can watch a great show called John Adams with Paul Giamatti on HBO. But what the Founding Fathers did was they created a system, America, where each state was so powerful on its own that the federal government couldn't mess it up for them, so to speak. And they had to do that to entice and incentivize all the states to join as part of the Union, America. And that's why taxes are different, and there's slightly different laws in different states in America. Yeah. I just want Texas to give us their tax code. Yeah. All right. Next up, Jules wrote, what happens if a United States government crypto does not get used by people? Well, if there's no demand for it, then they'll just default back to this. But I do believe that this is going to morph into a crypto, okay? And you'll have to use it, yeah, if you live in the U.S., yeah. They'll find a way to incentivize people, but they'll wait, right? They'll kind of observe others first. You know, they certainly won't be the first mover, yeah. But they're working on it, and you'll see the white paper or working paper, as Jerome Powell calls it, is going to come out this summer. Okay. And next up, Vishnu wrote, cryptocurrency involves a lot of dilemmas, as there are 6 or several federal agencies in the United States that define crypto in 6 different ways. So this make it the government's job difficult. Yeah. And to layer on top of that also is privacy advocates. You know, and one of the great things about America is that there are a lot of checks and balances in place, which is how the Constitution was put together. A lot of checks and balances in place to protect the individual, to protect privacy as well. Yeah. And next up, Vishnu wrote, the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network said that crypto's money. Oh, I'm sorry. You're listing all the agencies that want to regulate. Yeah, there's a lot of bureaucracy involved. Absolutely. Yeah. As there should be, because it's a big deal. Yeah. Okay. And then Patrick wrote, has Chris discussed M&A? I did earlier in the call. It's the first topic I talked about with Amazon, for example. Yeah. And if you have questions about that, please let me know. Thank you. All right, next up, Vishnu wrote, I've seen Richard Branson's post where he ran uphill till he reached the top. Not bad for a 7-year-old. He's great. He is. And he oozes positivity. If you get a chance, listen to his Audible books as well. Don't read his books. Listen to them because he narrates them. And he's so positive. He's great. I love the guy. And my favorite quote of Sir Richard Branson's is, screw it, let's do it. That's what he says with a lot of businesses he starts. Yeah. And also, he's a good guy, too. Like, his parents, the way they raised him was, if he ever, spoke badly about someone behind their back, his parents would make him stand in front of the mirror and explain, why would you do that? Yeah. A little bit out there, but I thought it was interesting nonetheless. Yeah. All right, let's see here. And Manas wrote, Obama's awesome. He's a great speaker. Yeah. It's right. Everybody here is guessing that it was Obama. You guys are right. Give me 1 second. I lost my spot. It happens sometimes. So I'm going to search for Obama. There we go. I found it. Okay, great. All right. Next up, Mike wrote, what speed do you typically set your treadmill to while you're working? So I set it to 3.7 miles per hour. And I'll show you that as well. All right. Okay, this place looks clean, but you have no idea how messy it is on the floor, right? So I'm going to set it right now, and I'll show you. So right now, it's 0.5 miles per hour, but I always crank it up to 3.7. I won't do this for long, I promise you, but I'm cranking it up now. There we go. So this is 3.7 miles per hour, and I walk at this pace for most of the day. I know it's silly. Let me turn it off. And when I do my one-on-one meetings, I do it with while I'm walking slowly, of course. But that's how I get my 20,000 steps in. And what I do is I wear my watch on my ankle. This thing here, yeah, it's just strap it. I'll put it in my pocket. Yeah. Because if you're typing all day long and the watch is on your wrist, you can't count steps. But it works really well. I promise you. I promise you. All right, buy the cheapest one you can find. Okay, and Mike wrote, by the way, I took your advice several weeks ago, and I got an adjustable standing desk and a desk treadmill. And you are right, my friend. I feel better, and I work better, and I have more energy. Thanks. It's awesome, eh? Isn't it the best? And I bought this for my employees, too. So let me show you the desk I use. And if you don't have the budget for it, it's pretty simple. Just get a box, right? And put it on your desk, and then your laptop on top of that. But I'll show you where to go for a decent one. Again, these are pricey, and there are cheaper alternatives, I'm sure. So what I did was I went to Fully, 2 L's? I can't remember. Fully desk. Here it is here. Fully, yeah, it's 2 L's, yeah. Fully, try the Jarvis standing desk. So this is the one I use here, okay? And there's a little button on the side that you push, and it goes up. And so standing desks right here they are, yeah. And I got the white one with the white top, yeah. But they're pretty cool. Yeah. Highly recommend it. Okay. Next up, Manas wrote, thank you for everything, my mentor. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Really grateful to you for everything. God bless you and your family and the Haroun Education Mentors family forever. I'll still be there on the 1 millionth episode of this webcast. I'll be on, I promise. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I can't believe it's number 138. It's crazy, man. I've answered over 10,000 questions, not just on this webcast, but my MBA office hours as well. And if you go to my website, you can literally search for anything up here, anything I've ever talked about, and the video will pop up as well. It's pretty powerful. And the way I did this, if you're curious, is I got it from this company called 360 Search, Site Search. Okay, and it's a great company based in Germany, and I could see queries in real time. So over the past couple of minutes, I'll show you what people have been searching for: free, mutual fund, job course, student login, complete job, mutual. Lots of people on mutual funds because I mentioned that earlier today, etc. So they're all here. And it even actually, what I have indexed are a couple of things. Number one, I've got my website, of course. Number two, my YouTube channel. And number three, all of my content for all my courses from learn.harounventures.com. It's fun. All right. Next up, Victor said, Chris, do you do yoga? I don't. But my way of kind of relaxing in the morning before I get out of bed is before I get up, I always thank God for 10 different things in this order. Andrew, Matthew, Dylan, my kids, Christine, my wife, mom, dad, my brothers and sisters, Jamie, Kate, Elizabeth, and my students, you. So I practice gratitude. And then this is just me, but I read a passage from the Bible as well. Yeah. And the book I use, it's actually a children's version, kind of. It's just easier to interpret because I have trouble reading the older text. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Manas wrote, my mentor yoga. Have you practiced it? I've been for the past 350 days, and it's magic for you. You feel more energetic, and you don't burn out even after working for 19 hours nonstop. It's a cool way of living. No, I used to do it with Christine, my wife, in New York City. We lived there. She used to take me to Bikram yoga, which is like hot yoga and stuff. Yeah. I'm not as flexible. I get my exercise in, do my steps here. Yeah. All right. Next up, Gurpreet wrote, what is the meaning of life for you? Yeah. So for me, I want to leave this world having humbly made my mark in making the world a better place. We're all here to serve others. That's our purpose. And Mark Twain once said, the two most important days in your life are number one, the day you're born, and number two, the day you find out why. And my why, and everyone's why, should be serving others and making your mark on humanity and making the world a better place. Yeah. And having a hell of fun along the way as well. Yeah. Next up, we've got Persona Non Grata, who's saying, hello, Chris. I'm one of your silver students from Italy and Germany. Thank you. I have a few employees. Sometimes they ask me for a raise. What do you recommend that I do? Yeah. And my employees just asked me recently, and I said yes. Yeah. And I was proud of them for asking, because asking you'll receive. It's prophetic. It's been true since the beginning of time. You'll never get a raise or a promotion unless you ask. So what I would do is, if you have the budget for it, of course, and you think that they're worthwhile, then definitely consider it. Otherwise, what you can do to incentivize them, even more so if you think the time's not right, is you can tell them, well, this is what you need to get promoted to the next level. You have to satisfy this criteria here. But I also believe on paying really good year-end bonuses, because I cut my teeth at Goldman Sachs in the hedge fund industry. So everybody is motivated and our interests are all aligned. And so you want to motivate your employees, if you can, based on performance and based on how much money they help the company to make or how much money they help the company to save. You have to be able to quantify it, so to speak. There has to be an element of a carrot in place for them to work exceptionally hard and have fun doing it too. I believe in a meritocracy, though. You eat what you kill. You get paid based on how much money you make a company, so to speak. And at year end, there's a general bonus pool for everybody. Yeah. All right. Another question from Persona Non Grata is, you explained to me why you removed Russia from BRIC. And BRIC is something that an economist named Jan Hatzius at Goldman Sachs, he's still there, nice guy. When I was there, he coined. And BRIC stands for investing in Brazil, Russia, India, and China. The emerging markets, or at least they were back in the early 2000s. You asked, and I removed Russia. I did. I'll never do it again. What about China? They have a communist system as well, and other peculiarities to speak. Yeah. It's hard to be a global investor without thinking about China's implications on the global economic environment, because China is going to be the world's biggest economy by roughly the year 2040, right? And so you have to kind of look at it. Yeah. But I'm of the mindset of Sergey Brin, from who's one of the co-founders of Google, in that I really don't want to support any sort of system that takes away fundamental human rights. Yeah. And the reason, and by the way, Google, as you all know, many of you know, pulled out of China about 10 years ago because of censorship. And because Sergey Brin grew up in Russia and he knows the evils of communism. And I'm glad Google did that. They're a great corporate citizen. I think if they didn't do that, and if they weren't a great corporate citizen, the government would have broken them up already. Because Google is too powerful. I mean, they own the two biggest search engines, Google as well as YouTube, of course. Yeah. And I'm embarrassed to say that when Google pulled out of China, I went long Baidu and short Google. I've changed, though. Just like I would never invest in cigarette companies or marijuana companies either. Yeah, another story, sorry. Okay, next up, Yamkela wrote, hey, Chris, what exactly is a partner at an investment bank? Do partners have any sort of ownership in the bank? Yeah. So the way it works is if you're a partner at a law firm or an investment bank or any sort of company, venture capital firm, it basically means you're a salesperson. It is. Because when you rise to the top, if you're CEO, partner, whatever it is, you have to bring in business, right? And so you're deemed as a partner, right? And in many companies, partnership means you're given a large number of shares of the company. And if you're a general partner, you have even more shares, so to speak. But partner is loosely used at a lot of companies. That does not include getting equity. But usually at a big investment bank, when you make partner, you're given a lot of shares in the company. Yeah. But a lot of junior employees, like when I was at Goldman, I had shares as well. They gave me shares in the IPO, which is cool, whatever. But I wasn't a partner. Yeah. And dude, it is hard to make partner. It is like, you got to have sharp elbows. Like I'd never make it because I don't know, I like to mentor people and I'm just different, whatever. Yeah. But to make it to, it is tough. You have got to have sharp elbows. Yeah. Yeah. Not all of them, but many. Okay. Next up, Persona Non Grata wrote, thank you for your generous support. Cheers. You're most welcome. Thank you. And Rishi says hello with a wonderful emoji. Hi to you as well. Namaste. Next up, we have Eileen who said, Dear Chris, are these webcasts also available offline? I mean, on your YouTube channel so we can watch later? I'm in a meeting now. Absolutely. Now, what I do is I rebroadcast everything. I'll show you quickly 2 places where you can get this stuff. So if you go to my website, Haroun Ventures, you can go to About Chris here, right? And I don't want to cover it up with my image in the corner here. And then you select weekly webcast, okay? And it's all here, all of them, okay? Everything. And all my vlogs as well. Or what you can do is you can go to my YouTube channel here and you can watch all of them as well. All of them here. One more thing I want to show you is my podcast, which I never talk about, but I suppose I should at some point. If you're on my website here and you go to About Chris and More and go down to podcast, you'll see that I have a podcast, right? And I haven't really marketed it. It's doing fine, whatever. But basically, it's all my weekly calls right here. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Eileen wrote, by the way, thanks for the great contents. And I like your emoji with the halo. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. And I remember when my grandmother passed away, God bless her, my son Dylan, this guy here, speaking of halo, my son Dylan, he said, can I FaceTime grandma? And I said, well, honey, you know what happened, right? And he said, yeah, I know, but I want to see what heaven looks like. All right, next up we have PM who wrote, what classes should college students take in order to better understand business? Yeah. It's so hard for me to even advise on that. I would guess accounting. I would think accounting because accounting it's like a language, right? You have to learn it, right? It's a language of business. Yeah. So I'd recommend that. And if you want, you can take I have a course called Introduction to Finance and Accounting. It's 4 hours long. Yeah. And it works. And if it doesn't, you get your money back. All right. Alan wrote, I don't know if this has been asked before. I just joined. What are your thoughts on NFTs? I've bought all of your courses and I'm a big fan. Alan, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Now, what you can do when it comes to NFTs is rewind the call if you want, because I talked a lot about it earlier. Or you can go to my website right here, Haroun Ventures. And at the top, you do a search on NFT. It's like EA Sports in the game. NFT right here, right? And here's all the times people ask me about NFTs, whatever. Yeah, so you can check that out if you want to. And thank you for your support as well. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Next up, Alan said inflation is coming due to the stimulus checks. Yes, it is absolutely coming. I completely agree. It's all around us too. You can see it. Prices of everything are melting up. It's just a matter of time until the government has to raise interest rates in order to control inflation. Yeah. All right. Next up, we have Anurag who wrote, "Hey Chris, greetings. Hi to you as well. How's your day? What's your day like? Your daily routine, and where can we follow you in social media for your personal whereabouts?" Yeah. So I have a bunch of different social media outlets. So LinkedIn, YouTube, of course, Twitter, and Instagram as well. In terms of my daily routine, so I get up 7:30 usually, 8:30 sometimes. I thank God for 10 things. Then I read a quick passage of the Bible, which is on my iPad above my head. And then what I do is I come down here and I walk all day long as I'm working. There's no chair in my office, right? And I just work, and it's not work. I love it. I just have fun doing it. Yeah. All right. Next up, we got Rafi, who's saying, "Hey, Chris, how do you deal with passive-aggressive people in the office?" Yeah, I hate office politics. I absolutely hate it. I know what you're talking about. I can't stand extreme type A personalities in a corporate environment either. Yeah. So I would say, in general, when it comes to office politics, and I hate myself for saying this, but here I go. Just know everything you say can and will be used against you. It's like your Miranda rights there. Just be careful, because there are some sharks at work who ask you certain questions, and no matter what your answer is, they might use it against you. And if you're ever at that point and you're not sure what to say, you say 2 words. I understand. Because you're not saying I agree or disagree with you, and you're not saying anything you get quoted for by sharks. You're just saying I understand. It works well in relationships too. Okay. All right. Next up, Jason. Jason wrote, "Hello, Chris. Hope you're doing well. Likewise. I'm awaiting your options as well as real estate courses. Thank you for everything you do. God bless you and your family abundantly. Take care." Thank you. And Jason, God bless you and your family much, much more. Thank you. Next up, PM wrote, "Mr. Chris, please. How does a businessman such as yourself make time for family and or luxury/free time?" Yeah. So 1 day a week. For me, it's Sunday. For a lot of my other friends, it's Friday or Saturday. But 1 day a week, Sundays, not allowed to work. Also, I do work from home. So I see my kids all the time. All the time. Yeah. I still put Dylan, my youngest one, to bed every night. We'll say prayers and play on the iPad, watch TikToks. I know it's bad. But I spend a couple hours every day with Christine and the kids. I do. Yeah. But it's because I work from home too. All right. Next up, Reza wrote, "Do you have a course on how to write a book?" Yeah. So what I would do is just search, go to my website, harounventures.com, and just search for a book or how to write a book. I have a lot of vlogs on that too, and a template for you as well. But whenever you're writing, and this is helpful from a business writing perspective, I was trained by my editor when I had my column in Inc. magazine on the side. When you write, don't ever put more than 3 sentences in one paragraph, because subconsciously it looks too long and people just lose interest. Secondly, always write at an 8th grade level. That's what my editor told me. And number 3, the title of your book or an article is brutally important. And do a search on how to make titles, etc. On my website, and there's plenty of videos on that. Yeah, or how to write. Yeah. Okay. Next question is from Casper, who's saying, "So, which tips are the best? Would you recommend something? Do you like tips ETFs?" Yeah. So I usually just look at, I think it's TIP is the one I've done. Let me take a look. And for those who are not familiar with that, it stands for Treasury Inflation Protected Security, which means if inflation goes up, you're protected from this treasury. A treasury is a U.S. government offering. Here it is here. Oh, this is the one here, actually. So it's actually a bond ETF. Okay, so you can look into this if you want to. Yeah. And what was the other one? I thought I saw one a while ago. It was tips. Yeah, no, it's just a tip is ETF. This is the one from iShares. Yeah. All right. Got my hair cut professionally for the first time in decades. Yeah. Oops, missed a spot. Okay. Next up, Rafi wrote, "Chris, what would you choose based on your experience for a male between the ages of 26 and 30 years old? Would you choose marriage first and then career, or the other way around?" Yeah. Yeah. So I would say be careful, because when I was younger, I made the mistake of thinking to myself, I'm going to make my fortune, whatever, do well, then I'll start a family, enjoy my kids. What's the point? You know, it's like saying, and I was wrong. It's like saying, I'm going to work my butt off my entire life so that I can spend the last 10 years and enjoy my retirement. What an awful way to live. So what I would say, and I'm criticizing myself in hindsight, is you've got to be able to smell the roses along the way. You can have your cake and eat it too. You know, I think if this works, meaning if you're married, kids and all that stuff, if this works, this works much, much better, right? And so I would say don't ever put off getting married or kids because of career. Vishnu wrote here, Charlie Bit My Finger was removed from YouTube May 23rd and sold as an ATF. Yeah, it's amazing, huh? 500 grand, I think they sold it for, yeah. All right. And next up, we've got here, Amarnath is saying, sir, any discounts? Yeah, if you go to on my courses, well, there's that one I'm offering free, the complete job one today, which I mentioned earlier. But if you go to my website, you can click here, and I'm going to go into incognito, so it shows I'm not signed in. And then right here, you can get my courses. Now, all my courses and my MBA program have a 100% money back guarantee. You can binge watch everything and then get your money back. I don't care. You click here to view all products, and my single courses are $9.99, which are discounts in general. I also have a subscription product out now too. See if I can find it. Where is it? I think it's at the end here. Yeah. Yeah, right here. Yeah. So we have this new product, which is subscription. It's $99 a month. So you can do the whole MBA in 1 month if you want, and then not pay for the second month, whatever. And it's over 500 hours of content. And that's only 20 cents per hour of content as well. So that's a new subscription product. Check it out on learn.harounventures.com. All right. I am getting hungry. Give me 1 second here. And the Real Truth Show said, treasuring real value. Yeah. And let me know what you mean by that, please. Yeah. All right. Peyton, who's one of my amazing MBA students, he's from Hawaii, and he works for the Navy. He lives in Southern California, and he's making an amazing company. And when I'm allowed to talk about it, I will, but he's awesome. And then Peyton said, Chris, you're awesome. Can't wait for 11/20. Thank you. And 11/20 is when I have office hours for my MBA students in the Gold and Platinum program, which is explained on my website, harounventures.com. Thank you, Peyton. All right, cool. And Peyton's got a great YouTube channel as well. Everyone check it out. He's just starting out. It's awesome. Next up, Lachelle wrote, Chris, I love how your buttons match your jacket. Thank you. It's kind of different, eh? It's fun. It's fun. I got this from a clothing store called Nordstrom, which has a great return policy as well. A little bit different. Yeah. And the problem with having bluish green eyes is I can't do green screen because, and I blame my Irish grandmother, I guess, on my mom's side. God bless you, Grandma. I love you, miss you. Okay. All right. Next up, Charles wrote, a great show. It's been a while since I tuned in. You're still on point. I love the beginning when you talked crypto. Thanks, Charles. I appreciate it. Yeah, we're changing things up a bit. And my goal is, but way before the end of this year, to make the look and feel of this much better than CNBC. Yeah. And it's going to be business news for my students without any bias at all, ever. No sponsors. Will that hurt my growth? Yes. Has it hurt my YouTube channel growth? Never taking sponsors? A lot. Do I care? No. Because it's all about you, the students. And if you go to my website and you go to About and Press, right here, you'll see, please note, we do not accept any sponsorship deals of any kind, yada, yada, yada. We don't make any partnership deals of any kind, as we are 1,000,000% focused on adding tremendous value to our students. You'll never see a bias here. Never see a bias, yeah. Like if you go to a lot of websites, like video game websites like IGN.com, Microsoft's a big sponsor, and so they usually don't say awful things about Microsoft content, etc. Yeah. No bias news. Yeah. All right. Next up, Arjun wrote, hey, Chris, what do you think about the tobacco/alcohol industry? Will the sale increase or decrease? And then you wrote, I'm not supporting smoking, drinking, but for stocks in general. Yeah. So whenever I think about stocks and investments, I like to ask myself this. In 5 years, will this company be more relevant or less relevant than it is today? And that kind of lets me see the forest and the trees. Kind of like Wayne Gretzky, the greatest hockey player ever. He once said, he's successful not because he skates to where the puck is, but rather because he skates where the puck is going to be. I got to smile and look here. YouTubers do this. They pause for a second so they know what their thumbnail is going to be. So let me do this in homage to the great Wayne Gretzky. And I'll timestamp that 1026. Yeah. So, yeah. But I think in 5 years, and 10 years, tobacco and alcohol companies will be less relevant, especially tobacco companies. Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I look for. Yeah. And I'm glad that people went after Juul as well. Next up, Naman wrote, hey, Chris, how do you be an influential and positive leader? Yeah. So I would say confidence is a big deal. And confidence is a light switch. You have it or you don't, and you can turn it on. And the only reason to not be confident is because you're self-critical, or I'm self-critical myself, for example. And you got to get to a point where you tell yourself, I just don't care what people think of me. I'm going to wear this beautiful velvet suit, even though it looks cheesy. I just don't care. This is me. And the moment that you tell yourself, I don't give a damn what other people think of you, is when you reach this awesome level of nirvana and you capture lightning in a bottle and you're just you. And it's easier that way. Be you. You do you. That will help you a lot when it comes to being influential and a public speaker as well. Now, repetition is the mother of all skill when it comes to public speaking. And you can practice a lot and get good at it. And I have a course on it called the Complete Presentation Course. I also teach this in my MBA degree program. But you have to practice a lot with other students. I can take you to the water, but I can't force you to drink. I say it with love in my heart. And so the way to practice with your fellow students is meet people over Slack in my MBA program. Slack is free in my MBA program. And set up meetings using Zoom, which is free to use, zoom.com, and practice with each other. Practice over and over and over again and have fun with it and try to be creative as well and artistic when you're presenting and be different. Just be you. All right. One more thing about being influential and a positive leader. You got to think of yourself as a thought leader in whatever it is you're passionate about. How do you become a thought leader? Well, it's like the Rodin sculpture. I think, therefore I am. And you have to write a lot. Okay, write a lot on LinkedIn, posts or videos, whatever it is. And eventually, after you do that 500 times or whatever it is, people will start thinking of you as a thought leader, and the media will reach out to you for quotes every now and then. It happens. It works. I promise you it works. But you got to have the chutzpah to be able to stick it out. Like for me, I did my 1,000th vlog recently, and I'm vlogging every day for the rest of my life. And I don't care what people think of me because I'm just being me. And you have to be the same way as well. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to show you a 60-second video, which is my 1,000th vlog. Be right back. Thanks. If you bully people at work, meaning if you're a corporate bully, then I want you to keep watching this. Otherwise, don't watch the rest of this vlog. It's going to be out there today. But for you, the corporate bully, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for being such a jerk. And by the way, you peaked in high school and you're so insecure that you treat people poorly. I get it. I get it. You're really insecure. I understand. But you know what? In a bizarre way, and I think what you've done at work, treating people poorly, is disgusting. But I think in a bizarre way, I want to thank you. Because you've motivated the people that you've treated poorly to quit and to join another company, or you've motivated them to start their own companies. You see, frustration in business can be a beautiful thing. And I say it with love in my heart, because if you're frustrated at work because you're being treated poorly, and I've been treated poorly many times before, then that forces you to get outside your comfort zone and get a better job, or better yet, start your own company. If I can be resourceful in any way, helping you start your own company, please let me know. Thank you. Not the bullies, just the people who are being bullied, like I was. Thank you. All right, thank you for your patience there. I took a quick break. Next up, I've got Modi who's saying, what do you think about tech stocks RN? Should I buy? Yeah, I don't know what RN is. I'm so sorry. I don't know that ticker. Yeah. But in my MBA degree program and my finance courses, I teach you exactly how to look at investing in companies based on how the pros do it. Yeah. I'm not the pro though. All right, next up, Charles wrote, Rich Dad, Poor Dad is another great book. A lot of people mention that to me. I've actually never checked it out, but I will look into it. Yeah, thank you. Kiyosaki, I think was his name. Robert? Yeah. Next up, we got Akazan, who wrote, Hey, Chris. Hey, my weak spot is my inconsistency. I give up on things pretty fast. Do you have any advice on how to overcome this weakness? Thank you very much in advance. Absolutely. Yeah. So the way to follow through with a goal is to set a deadline date and tell everybody about it. Now, most people give up on their New Year's resolutions by the third week of January. They give up because they did not set a deadline date, and they didn't vocalize it either. And so I humbly recommend setting a deadline date for yourself for all of your goals and vocalize it. Tell people about it. Like, for example, years ago, I was writing my first book called 101 Crucial Lessons They Don't Teach You in Business School. And I vocalized it. And I told my family and friends, etc. And every time I'd see my family, they'd be like, how's that book coming along? How's your book coming along? And if you want a good laugh, do a search on the TV show Family Guy and book. It's funny. Seth MacFarlane's hysterical. But I told people about it. And then eventually I said, okay, I'm going to get it done by the end of this year. So you vocalize it, you set a deadline date, and it happens. And you have to write down your goals if you want to be successful. You know, back in 1970, and some people say what I'm about to tell you is an urban legend, meaning not true, but I'm going to tell it anyway. Back in 1970, back in 1950, the graduating class of Yale University was asked, how many of you have written down your goals? And back then in 1950, that graduating class, only 3% had written down their goals. Then 20 years later, they went back to that same class in the year 1970, 2 years before I was born. 20 years later, they went back to that class in 1970, and they calculated the net worth of all the students that graduated 20 years earlier. And the net worth of the 3% of people that had written down their goals was greater than the other 97% combined. And so the bottom line is you have to write down your goals often. And I actually have a daily scheduler for you. You can download for free from my website that will help you map out each day. The web address is as follows: harounventures.com/ all lowercase schedule. All lowercase schedule. And in my MBA degree program, I have a much higher end premium version of that that works on PDF, OneNote, PowerPoint, etc. All right, next up, we've got Hashem. And one more thing also. It might not, you said it's a weakness, being inconsistent. Maybe it's not a weakness. Maybe whatever it is you're doing, you're not passionate about. And subconsciously, maybe your brain is telling you you weren't meant to be doing what it is you're doing right now. And so for me, years ago, they thought I had a learning disability, right? The teachers. And they wanted to fail me in the 6th grade and the 8th grade. I'm going to show you something in a second. And I remember they sent me this testing center on Lakeshore Road in Oakville, Ontario, called Chisholm, to test to see if I had a learning disability. I didn't, I don't think. The problem was I wasn't passionate about what I was doing. And so what my parents did, I have the best parents ever. What my parents did was they bought this for the house. And this changed my life. I became consistent. I got papers done because I love using computers to do anything. So maybe it's not you being inconsistent. Maybe it's just a matter of you haven't found your passion in life yet. Sorry about the audio there. So how do you know what your passion is in life? Well, if I told you that for the next 30 days, you're not allowed to work, you're not allowed to go to school, and you're not allowed to travel, what would you do with your time? Whatever it is you would do, that's your passion. It should be your career, no matter what anybody tells you. Follow your heart, and this will work much, much better. I promise you. All right. Next up, Hashem wrote, Hey, Chris, nothing political, but I want to know what are your thoughts on what's happening in the Palestine-Israeli conflict? Yeah. Oof. So I went to Israel in the summer of 2017, and I was in Tel Aviv. And I asked my tour guide, I said, why is it we don't hear of as many issues anymore? And one of the things he said, and I mean issues like a lot of bombs and stuff, and it's terrible, and I hope it gets better there. There is a ceasefire right now. What he told me was back in 2011, the IDF, which is the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF and the government, pardon me, they created something called the Iron Dome, which is this invisible force field around Tel Aviv, right, which shoots down any rockets or whatever it is pretty quickly. And so it's kind of like if countries have nuclear bombs, which is wrong, obviously, then there's game theory and maybe they won't be used against each other. But what happened in the past couple of weeks is disgusting on both sides. You know, it broke my heart. Yeah. And I have a family, Christine's family. They're Palestinian. They live up in Haifa, and we visited them. And in their house, they all have bomb shelters just in case, and masks and stuff. It's terrible what's happened there. God willing, there's been peace for a while until recently. It breaks my heart. Yeah. Okay. And God bless Anwar Sadat. So he was the Egyptian president. My dad's from Egypt. And back in 1977, he worked with Jimmy Carter on setting peace in the Middle East. And then he was assassinated. Yeah. So God willing, this gets fixed quickly. Yeah. And Yakira, I know you're based in Israel. You mentioned, or actually, I'm searching for the word Israel. Hold on a second. I lost my spot. Palestine. Oh, this is from Hashem's comment. Yeah. God willing, we have peace. Yeah. Okay. Next up, regarding BRIC, it's now called BRICS. And South Africa is part of BRICS. Oh, interesting. As an emerging market. Yeah. I view South Africa as a little bit more advanced. Yeah. From an economic development perspective than I do the others. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Lachelle wrote, in South Africa, there's free trade agreements within the countries, and they even have their own bank, the BRICS Bank. I didn't know that. Interesting. Next up, Happy Man is saying, what do you mean by sharp elbows? Yeah. So earlier in the call, somebody asked me about becoming partner in a law firm or an investment bank or venture capital firm. In order to make partner at a big government type institution like Goldman Sachs, it's hard. It's hard because hardly anybody makes it to the top. And now I understand. I worked at Goldman Sachs for 5 years. Now I understand why so many successful politicians come out of that place. Right? You got to be careful what you say all the time. And not all partners are mean. But a lot of people that make it to the top, billionaires, whatever it is, they cut corners or they have sharp elbows, meaning they're get out of my way sort of thing. Yeah. So, but I think if you're ethical, longer term, you'll make it. There's no need to cut corners. And what is ridiculous about society and business in general is when you see these billionaires, they get caught for something illegal like insider trading. And you think to yourself, I don't get it, man. They're worth $1 billion. Why would they do this? Because once a cheater, always a cheater. And as Warren Buffett said, it takes 30 years to build up a reputation and 30 seconds to ruin it. Yeah. But just be ethical. And eventually, per that video I showed with corporate bullies, they'll be discovered. Yeah. You can't be a prick your whole life and make it. You can't. Or if you do cut too many corners, eventually you'll get caught and maybe you'll spend time in jail. And I have friends actually that spent time in jail. And I actually went to go visit them. I've never done anything wrong. I've always been ethical. But I've had friends that have cut corners and they've gone to jail for it, insider trading. And I've gone down to visit them. And it's kind of like Club Med. It's not like high-end security, but it sucks. They're away from their families for a couple of years. Yeah. All right. And I could talk more about that if you want to. And insider trading, everything you want. I've seen it. I've never done it, but I'm happy to opine and give you full transparency in what happens behind the scenes. Like with Raj Rotman at Galleon. He's in jail now. I could talk about any of that stuff if you want me to. Yeah. Okay. Next up, Lachelle wrote, elbows are actually super sharp. You can cut someone's face open with your elbow. It's a powerful weapon. And do you know you can't lick your elbow? I told my kids that. They were trying the other day. And that's why my kids, with COVID, when they have to open doors and stuff, I tell them to use their elbow as well. Yeah. My kids don't have sharp elbows. All right. And Lachelle wrote, hey, Chris, I'd love to have a Zoom call. Regards, your future boss. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. We'll set it up. Caesar wrote, I loved your video on a day of the life of a hedge fund analyst. My question, thank you. And by the way, I made that with Powtoon. So go to powtoon.com to make cartoons. And don't pay for the service. What you can do is you have to pay for Powtoons when you make them. Otherwise, you get the free version with their branding in the corner. So just do a screen recording on the middle part. Yeah. I'll never be sponsored by anybody, nor do I want to be. And by the way, you know that you can all get the FT for free, Financial Times for free online. Ask me how, and I'll show you. I mentioned it before, though. All right. Or go to my website, harounventures.com, and do a search for Financial Times, and there's a video that will pop up, tell you how. Question. My question is about hedge fund analysts. What role does market research play in investment decisions? Yeah. So I would say a lot. You know, you got to do bottoms-up analysis of a sector in any particular company as well in order to do exceptionally well longer term. And when you invest to be successful in the hedge fund industry, you can't be short-term focused. You got to be long-term focused and look at number 1, fundamentals, number 2, valuation, number 3, technicals, in that order, FVT. Fundamentals, valuation, and technicals. And in my MBA degree program, I provide you with an elaborate template to do that. It's actually a 100-step template. I give you all the tools you need to be successful in finance and all tracks of careers. And so here's a really short video of that 100-step research process I provide all my students with, and a bunch of other templates as well. So this is the finance and accounting portion of my MBA degree program. And after this video, what I'll do is I'll ask you all a question, and whoever answers it right gets the MBA degree program for free. Welcome back. So here's the question I'm asking all of you. And whoever answers this question correctly, the first person that answers it correctly gets my $999 version of my MBA program for free. Now, the rule is if you already are enrolled, you can't answer a question, okay? So here we go. So the question is, earlier today, I talked about NFTs. What platform are most NFTs based on? Which crypto platform? And whoever answers it first and correct wins the MBA degree program. So I'll wait. No answers yet. Usually it's pretty quick. We still live? All right. There we go. Got a bunch of answers at the same time. Okay. Shock Rolo, you want it. Ethereum is what you said. You are correct, Shock Rolo. And congratulations, Shock Rolo, also earlier for telling me what movie that quote came from when I mentioned, "This is beautiful. What is this, velvet?" Yeah. Excellent. Wow, a lot of people answering at the same time. But first was Shock Rolo. Shock Rolo, congratulations. Please send me a message to support@harounventures.com. Okay, support@harounventures.com, and I will provide you with the coupon for the MBA degree program. Okay, so you'll get it for free. And to learn more about the MBA degree program, if anybody's interested, oh my God, I'm such an idiot. I know that. The older I get, the better I was. To learn more about the MBA degree program, just go to harounventures.com. Click here to check it out. There is a 30-day, 100% money-back guarantee. And also, you can scroll down to learn more about it, read testimonials, and all about the MBA program, all that great stuff. Okay, great. So congratulations, Shock Rolo, on getting the question right. All right, moving on. Next up, we got about 12 minutes left. If I don't answer your question, please just copy it and ask me again next week because I'll be doing these weekly calls forever. Next question is from Caesar, who wrote, "I sell market research and I'm having a really hard time breaking in and gaining market traction." Yeah. So in business, relationships are more important than product knowledge. Your network is your net worth. Go to my website, download my book for free on how to network. I promise you it works. And I promise you, you will get customers that way if you do that. Yeah, I promise you. All right. It's like dating. You know, you can't just ask one person out. I had to ask 8 billion people out until finally somebody said yes, my wife, who's out of my league. You got to be relentless, like a pit bull and a pork chop, and keep asking over and over and over again. Because in business, you only have to be right one time to make it big. Yeah. Next up, Anurag wrote, "Hey, Chris, the COVID pandemic has brought down all economies in the world. However, the stock market hasn't really gone down a lot everywhere. Can you explain the relationship between both?" Yeah, absolutely. A couple things. So what governments have two medicines, nothing to do with COVID. Governments have two medicines to improve the economy. One of them is called monetary policy, which is the policy of money. And basically, if they make a lot more of this stuff, then interest rates go down a lot. Okay, and that's how they help the economy. Because if interest rates are very, very low, and the government says they're going to be low for a while, then nobody leaves their money in the bank because interest rates suck. And so people instead invest in startups, real estate, stocks, etc. Now, and I'll get to the other medicine in a second. From a monetary policy, back in the early 1980s, the interest rate in America was 20% because inflation was high. As a result, the market sucked in the early 80s and not many companies were formed. Because who the heck would want to buy stocks when you can get 20% in the bank or by buying government bonds? So that's monetary policy. Now, the government has no more bullets left with monetary policy to jumpstart the economy through rate cuts. So the other medicine is called fiscal policy. And fiscal policy is the way to make the economy work better without changing interest rates. So fiscal policy includes maybe cutting taxes or creating stimulus checks, that sort of thing. So they can't do much more of that because they've already done a lot of fiscal policy. So there's no more medicine. There's no more medicine left in the monetary policy bottle, and there's no more medicine left in the fiscal policy bottle. So what do you do? Well, the only other way to prop up the global economy is to somehow make people feel richer. And if people feel richer, they'll spend more, which helps taxes and the economy and stops any sort of civil unrest, God willing. The way to do that is to basically make the stock market go up a lot so everyone feels richer. It's the wealth effect, right? And it helps the economy. And so by telegraphing in the marketplace that rates are going to stay low for a long time, it makes the market go up. Now, what I'm about to say is very controversial. I believe that last year, in 2020, when a lot of the crappiest stocks went up a lot, I believe that certain government agencies around the world may have bought the crappiest stocks as a way to force hedge funds to freak out and cover their shorts, which made the market melt up. And as Machiavellian said, the ends justify the means. And as we look back upon this period in history, I think we're going to find out that certain government agencies did that. Is it unethical? Perhaps. But the ends justify the means. You stop civil unrest. That's what I think happened last year. And some people refer to these things as slush funds. Governments around the world, I'm not going to say which governments around the world may or may not have offshore accounts to buy the crappiest stocks to make the market melt up. That's what I believe might have happened. Now, this is unprecedented. We've never seen a point in economic history where there's so many bubbles. You know, usually if one bubble bursts, like the stock market bubble in March of 2000, then another bubble is created, which is the real estate bubble. It's just the way it is. But now what's happening is there's a bubble in all markets. It's unbelievable. And was it the right decision by governments? Yes. Because what's the alternative? Civil unrest. So I think that that's partially why the markets have gone up. Is it sustainable? Absolutely not. Are we starting to see inflation? Heck yeah. It's everywhere around us. Will the government have to raise interest rates soon? Yes. Do I like asking myself questions and answering the affirmative? Yes. Sorry, that was the first dad humor in like an hour. Yeah. All right. Next up, Rafi is saying, Chris, will artificial intelligence / robots be able to replace the physician's job? Yes, absolutely. And so there's a company called Intuitive Surgical. The ticker is ISRG, which does this. It's basically remote procedures. They haven't perfected it yet, obviously, but it's only a matter of time until what you've seen in television shows like Star Trek, whatever, where you have robotic surgeons. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, next up, Juan wrote, Chris, you rock. No, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. And I saw Chris Rock live in concert years ago in New York. And it was so funny because he was picking on Will Smith. And he was saying how Will Smith's not a real rapper and all that stuff. And it was so funny. And all of a sudden, Will Smith went up on stage and jokingly grabbed Chris Rock and gave him a noogie. Yeah, speaking of Chris Rock. Next up, Polonius wrote, there is a fantastic interview on Masterclass with Wayne Gretzky. Yeah, I saw it. I love it. I love it. Wayne Gretzky is awesome. A big part of his success is how positive he is, and also his ability to focus. But I've checked out his course. It's pretty cool. I love Wayne Gretzky. He's great. Yeah. And I remember the day that Wayne Gretzky was traded from the Edmonton Oilers to Los Angeles. That was like the day that the JFK incident for Americans in the early 60s. But for Canadians, it was back in the 90s. We all watched it live and we all in tears. Yeah. So did the great one, Wayne Gretzky. All right. Next up, Anurag wrote, what are some of the skills you would recommend to people from non-tech backgrounds to master in the future? Yeah. So if you want to reinvent yourself and learn tech, and you feel like you missed the tech boat years ago, you can always learn online. There's lots of people to learn from. My favorite one by far is Angela Yu, YU, Angela Yu. Just do a search on her and Udemy courses. She's great. Anybody can learn. Anybody can do it. Doesn't matter how old or how young you are. Yeah. All right. Next up, we have David Yerman. And David, thanks for connecting with me on LinkedIn as well. So David wrote, Chris, why wouldn't you invest in marijuana stocks? They're more than just weed. There's also pharmaceuticals. What keeps you away? Yeah, so it's just me personally. So when I've tried it in the past, and this is just me, okay? Yes, I inhaled. It made me very lazy. Very lazy. And I don't know. I hate anything that takes away my motivation for me personally. Do I believe in medical marijuana? Yes, I do. I do. Do I believe in hemp products, which are made from marijuana? I do. Do I think that marijuana should be legal? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. And people hate me for that. But the reason I say that is because, well, if you try weed, maybe you'll try hash. If you try hash, maybe you'll try coke, which I've never done. Maybe you'll try cocaine, heroin, stuff I'll never do, etc. Yeah. So it's just my opinion. Yeah. Yeah. All right. And I'm smiling because I'm thinking of the movie Ted, where Mark Wahlberg and Ted are looking at this field of marijuana, and they're in shock, right? And then they say, they come in herds. They do come in herds. And in the background was Jurassic Park music. It's pretty funny. Yeah. I love Mark Wahlberg. All right. Next up, Anurag is saying, and we got 3 minutes left. Anurag is saying, Chris, I would recommend you watch the Bollywood movie Bahubali, both parts 1 and 2. Best movie ever made in India. Amazing lesson in leadership. I'm going to check it out. And I'm actually glad that there's been a dearth or limit on brand new content here in America when it comes to television shows and movies, because it's made me more worldly. And I've watched movies from all over the world. I love it. And it's so interesting because even Apple TV, they released a lot of movies and television shows with subtitles. One of them is called Tehran, which is awesome. It's about the IDF, or Israeli Defense Forces, and Mossad, I should say, spying in Iran. Yeah. It's awesome. Okay. And Lachelle is saying the BRICS Bank is called the New Development Bank. And I didn't realize that. Thank you. And Heathens Nations Music is saying phenomenal live stream. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. Everybody deserves a second chance. Yeah. All right. Next up, Greg is saying, was the recent big drop in Bitcoin driven by derivative trading? Yeah. So let me explain derivatives and stocks. So stocks, if you take the market cap or the value of all stocks globally and add it up together, it's $90 trillion. Okay? That's a lot. However, if you take the global derivatives markets, meaning options, futures, swaps, etc., the size of the global derivatives market is $600 trillion. It is massive. So yes, derivative instruments had something to do with the precipitous decline in the price of Bitcoin, ticker BTC. However, I think there are other instruments at play there. One is fear of inflation. Another is Elon Musk, who moves markets, saying that he's not going to accept Bitcoin anymore. And that dragged down all cryptos. And I felt it too with Ethereum, which I'm currently mining. Yeah. All right. Great. Next up, Sky98 wrote, what do you think about Burry's short on 20-year bonds? Yeah, I'm not up to speed on that. I'm so sorry. Okay. So there's a lot more questions. Please copy your questions and paste them, and I'll answer those questions next week and every Thursday at 8 a.m. So follow me on YouTube if you want to. My vlogs drop every day at 9 a.m. God bless you all. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you next Thursday and every Thursday at 8 a.m. And my wonderful staff, what they do, John Klee, who I met on this weekly webcast. He works with me now. He's great. John Klee from Rochester. What John Klee does is within 2 or 3 hours of this call being completed, what he does is he goes to the description field of this YouTube video. And in the description field, he enters in all the questions asked and at what time. So you can get immediate clickable access to the answers. God bless you all. And as always, I close with this video that I licensed from the Silicon Valley Historical Association. Thank you.
When you grow up, you tend to get told that the world is the way it is, and your life is just to live your life inside the world, try not to bash into the walls too much, try to have a nice family life, have fun, save a little money. But life, that's a very limited life. Life can be much broader once you discover one simple fact, and that is everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you. And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use. And the minute that you understand that you can poke life and actually something will, if you push in, something will pop out the other side, that you can change it, you can mold it, that's maybe the most important thing, is to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it, versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. I think that's very important. And however you learn that, once you learn it, you'll want to change life and make it better, because it's kind of messed up in a lot of ways. Once you learn that, you'll never be the same again.